Happy Thursday. It is another live edition. When I say that, you can believe this. It's already episode 20 of Press Row, episode 20 of Press Row. As always, we are your front row seat to the intersection of sports, business, media, and culture. As always, live right here on the Into the Bench Network, brought to you by Playback and also simulcasting on the ETB YouTube channel, and also powered by our friends at Novig. That is Nick Morgeson joining us as always from Plainview, New York. Callum McClure joining you folks here from San Diego, California, as mentioned on a Thursday, October 16th. And as always, another action-packed lineup of topics, tapes, takes, and deep dives ahead over the next 3+ hours here today on ETB. As always, be sure you're following us on social media. We are at ETB Network on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And be sure to smash the subscribe button over at youtube.com/ETB Network. And let's grow past the thousand subscribers we have. And more importantly, we're now pushing to get past 4,000 watch hours. So put on a playlist, have us in the background while you're at the office or hanging out, and put us on the big screen television. And more importantly, we're also brought to you by Playback TV, the real-time, fan-first experience where you can watch games with us live, react live, jump on mic, and connect with your fellow sports diehards from the NBA, Major League Baseball to soccer, all happening on Playback. Sign up for free today at playback.tv and never watch sports alone again. And also, we are brought to you by our friends over at Novig, America's #1 sports prediction market, available right now in 35 states, including California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and New York. On Novig, you're 10 times more likely to win in the long run compared to a traditional sports book because you play against real players and not against the house. Sign up today and use our promo code ETB Network, and you can unlock exclusive sign-up bonuses, including spending $5 and getting 50 in free predictions. Nick Morgeson, long day coming up here as mentioned with our program. Once more, another midday, early morning edition out here on the West Coast. But, of course, Nick, so much to unpack again, as always. As always, man, good to see you. How's it going today?
Oh, man. This show is great just because, well, it's either good or bad luck when all the media news breaks, like right before the show, too, on top of everything else we're doing. But we had a really big story in the media world, in the media sports business world, really break. And a major sporting goods company might be involved in it too. But no, I'm doing good. We're also going to get into some digital and podcast arrangement deals, which don't know if I'm a fan. Also, my favorite person is in the news again, all because she decided to walk a runway. What else are we talking about today? Oh, we're talking about jersey patches. We're talking about the WNBA CBA drama again because it never ends. Let's see. Oh, we got private investment. This is going to be a good show, and there's a lot of good topics. And we had news break before the show again, which we will get to at some point because it's significant news. But a long way to go, so let's just get underway.
Yeah, a long way to go, folks. As always, we invite your input again, good, bad, ugly, or indifferent in the live chat box, or if you're also on the YouTube simulcast, you can also drop your commentary there, and it will actually come in and filter into our live chat box here as well. So again, we thank you all for being here this morning/early afternoon here today. Of course, Nick, it's been the massive story across all of ETB platforms since it broke, though, in the week. But as we know, Mr. Morgeson, following the firing of Penn State head coach James Franklin, rumors have now circulated on the web that Penn State's new apparel partner, Adidas, may have been or was involved in some direct way in pushing for the decision to fire Franklin, allegedly due to the program's lack of CFP appearances, which diminishes the visibility and ROI of their multi-million-dollar contract. Though a Penn State spokesperson denied the reports to Front Office Sports, stating in part that the decision was solely made by the administration and Adidas is not paying the buyout. The mere circulation of this powerful rumor highlights the outsized influence that major corporate sponsors are now perceived to have on a athletic department's decision-making at the highest level of college athletics. So, Nick, when a multi-million-dollar corporate partner's satisfaction is tied to performance and exposure, is it perhaps realistic for schools to claim that their massive financial partners have absolutely zero influence on high-stakes coaching decisions like we saw at Penn State, which I know, Nick, has been talked about here on MTGP. You and Zan have talked about this on ETB Sports. I know it's made its rounds here over the course of the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 days on the network. Now, of course, here on our program. Nick, what can you tell us? What do we know? What don't we know? We've heard a lot of, he said, she said, they said, we said, basically about, that this was a Penn State decision. We heard about Adidas maybe having some sort of way to finagle this where it was them forcing out Franklin. Nick, what do you buy? What do you sell from this opening story here again that, again, has really captivated the ETB airwaves here for the last several days?
All right, so obviously we find out James Franklin gets fired by Penn State, had 2 major losses. I think it was UCLA. I can't remember the other team they lost
Northwestern.
to. Northwestern, which they were supposed to win by double digits. They were double-digit favorites to win both games. They lost badly in both games. He did get fired for performance, but at the same time, there was a little bit of gotcha culture, a little bit here when it came to the way the firing went down in the process, because he had 48 or 40, I think 49 million left via buyout. At the same time, they throw Nike to the curb and they sign a $300 million deal with Adidas. Now, if everyone else who's watching us has the same inquisitive look on their face, you don't think it's a little bit of a coincidence that they signed a $300 million deal and then there happened to be a firing buyout of James Franklin for whatever money was left? Something's not adding up in that process. For the most part, he got fired for performance, but at the same time, it doesn't help. I mean, it does help to have that money to be able to pay it. But they're claiming, like you said, they told FOS and they've told a bunch of the other media platforms, no, we did it on our own. I'm having a hard time believing that money did not help, based on all the NIL structuring and all the new private investment, which we're going to talk about later. Something's not adding up.
Yeah, I find it, Nick, hard to believe, even in a day and age, though, where donors and boosters, the alumni, they have so much power, it feels like, even, I think, now more than ever, it seems like, where we have seen, though, that the booster club and the donors, the alumni, they're not afraid now, Nick, to buy out multi-million-dollar or massive salaried contracts now in college athletics. And we've heard the rumors about what might happen to Bill Belichick at UNC. We obviously, we were talking late last night in what we're calling the content dungeon. Is the next story going to be basically the Jimbo Fisher rule in some way, shape, form, or size? But again, I do find this, Nick, to be very hard that a university like Pennsylvania State University, Penn State as people know it better by the short name, would cave to corporate pressure because of a new lucrative deal with a partner like Adidas. Now again, would Nike have done this at Oregon? Because we know that Nike has so much pull with every week the Ducks have a brand new football jersey in some way. Again, that might be a little bit, excuse me, out of bounds or, off the grid.
Well,
but I do think just to kind of in a way kind of put a bow on my first thoughts here.
Yeah.
I do think, Nick, it's even in the current landscape we're in right now, I do think it's a little bit difficult, I would say, for a university who makes so much damn money off tuition, endowment, and athletics that they would actually cave and bend a knee to a partner like Adidas to save face. Now, my other thing I'll go here, is this only being reported, Nick, in some way that maybe Penn State said, can you throw us a bone?
So the one thing I just want to step back to what you said for a second is I think the Oregon thing is different.
It is.
Because Phil Knight, the CEO, the owner of, well, I shouldn't say owner, CEO of Nike, because Nike
might as well be the damn owner.
Well, Nike's a public company, so technically you can't have an owner. But my point is, Phil Knight has been a massive donor to Oregon. So that's a whole different scenario ball game. So they are going to listen to him on certain aspects because he gives the college a lot of, like, millions upon billions of dollars. So that's a different scenario. With this, Adidas is just a distributor partner. Let's call it for what it is. Is it a big money distributor partner? Yes. $300 million is not something that just randomly falls out of the sky and onto your floor. But I don't know what to believe at this point in time.
I don't either.
And the Jimbo deal, because we're talking about the Jimbo Fisher clause possibly being involved. Texas A&M was dumb. I'm just going to come out off the top and say that.
Think or you know.
Because believe it or not, even though people are getting angry at this, I think I said this to you last night. Penn State took de facto insurance without paying for it.
They did.
In a sense where they said, look, let's protect ourselves in the long run. Whether he decides to run to another school, if he gets hired somewhere else, or we fire his ass because he's not performing, and you lose to two schools that are way below you. So, but I don't know but we got to talk about the other part of this too, which is this dumb clause, which is what we're talking about. And I forgot what the name of the clause is, but what I know is that he has to go. The clause says he has to go out and find a job.
Yeah.
Search.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to give everyone out there a quick heads up. In about 5 minutes, you might hear my living room television blare in the background. Today is the annual California statewide earthquake drill, and they might be testing the emergency alert system in about 5 minutes. Just so everybody knows, my phone just went off literally from my university that it's a test of the school-wide emergency notification system. So I just wanted to kind of throw that quick disclaimer out. If you hear some very loud alarm in the background, you know why now. Speaking of that, though, Nick, to go to part two now, again, the complexity, though, of James Franklin's contract obtained by FOS reveals a key duty to midgetate clause, as you were referring to here. If Penn State fired him for performance reasons, as we are of the belief that they did, they owe him roughly $8 million annually through the 2031 season. But he, though, is required, I believe, by state law to diligently search for another job in either coaching or broadcasting. If Franklin does find the new job, Penn State's annual payout is reduced only to the difference between his new salary and the $8 million owed. This clause, which is distinct from the unmidgetated buyouts of figures like Jimbo Fisher, is designed now to protect the university's athletic budget while forcing the fired coach to seek new employment directly and right away. So, Nick, with the inclusion of this midgetation clause in James Franklin's contract, does it represent a smart, necessary financial evolution for college athletics, or is it perhaps, though, unfair that it is a constraint on a coach fired without cause? Where again, we're of the belief he got fired for performance reasons,
for cause,
which is in the clause, and I think that this is actually a thing that will become a rule pretty soon, and it will be named in honor of Jimbo Fisher.
But I think you and I were discussing this last night. Then don't call it a buyout. If you're going to force on the other end to say, hey, you have to go get a contract or go get a deal doing media, and we're only going to pay you the difference. That's not a buyout. That's restrictive contract clause. Because what's the point of calling it a buyout and say, oh, I owe this much if we let you go? I mean, don't call it a buyout. Just say, oh, well, we're firing you, and then we're only going to pay you if... That almost sounds like you're trying to break a contract in the middle of, like, when you give someone a new deal. Oh, well, we're saying that only way we're going to have you is if we have insurance, de facto insurance on you, and you have to go get another job. In what free world have you ever heard someone say, oh, well, I'm firing you, I owe you money, but I'm forcing you to go get another job? That's not a free world.
In a way, it's kind of sounds like hitting the unemployment line if you're a regular civilian, in a way, where you're told to, go and search. You're told to fill out like a time card for the time that you spent looking at jobs, and give us reasons why that you weren't given, like an interview or whatever. Like this, though, Nick, is interesting, and I think, though, we both would agree, and I think a lot of fans would agree, that maybe universities in some weird way learned from that Jimbo Fisher contract mistake, though, of we got to do something to protect ourselves in case that we have to let a coach go for reasons based on on-field product and play.
Right, but that's not a buyout then. They need to
Not
change
then,
the name
yes.
of it because legally a buyout means you sign a deal and if we let you go, you have to pay whatever money is left on a deal. That's not a buyout. They're trying to say you have to go get another job and we're going to pay you the difference. That's not a buyout.
Yeah, I mean, again, this story though, Nick, has just been all over the place, as we said. To recap real quick, as we already have discussed in a way, that following James Franklin's firing, again, we've had rumors about somehow Penn State having Adidas being involved with Penn State, involving pushing this decision because of the program's lack of success recently when it's come to the playoffs, the Big Ten championship, and diminishing the visibility and the ROI of Adidas's multi-year $1 million contract. Again, a Penn State spokesperson denied those reports made to Front Office Sports, saying that it was solely done by the administration of the university, and Adidas was not and is not paying the buyout. And the mere circulation of the rumor highlighting the outsized influence once were major corporate sponsors. As Nick did say, though, that the Oregon situation with Phil Knight is way different than Penn State, where again Phil is a donor to the university. As I also brought Phil, that they have new football uniforms every single week, and he's got way more power and pull at that university. But again, what we also can confirm in some way from FOS is that there is a duty to midgetate clause, not really a buyout, as Nick has been saying, where once more, if the Nittany Lions fired him for performance reasons, they would owe him roughly $8 million annually through 2031. But during that time, he is required to search diligently for another job, either in coaching somewhere or as a analyst or in the broadcasting world. If he does find that new position, Penn State's buyout is reduced only to the difference between the new salary and the $8 million he is owed. Again, the clause was kind of in a way put in place to try to not have a repeat of Jimbo Fisher happen at Texas A&M, where I think, Nick, that was what, $76 million that they were on the hook for at A&M?
Biggest buyout in college football history. Another thing I wanted to point out also, because like the school is denying to the millionth degree that Adidas was not involved. You really think the school is going to tell you that Adidas was involved in a buyout? They're not dumb enough to admit that. I mean, so we're never going to know. And also, speaking of laws, this just came to my head and I forgot about it. Pennsylvania has a law that says they don't have to reveal contract details.
Interesting.
So, and that involves all the schools. So what was that? That's Penn State, Temple, and I forgot the other one they mentioned, but Pitt. And they do not have to reveal public contract details. So we're never going to know if Adidas got involved and paid it. But come on, like they're not just going to out themselves and say, "Oh, Adidas helped us pay the bill."
Which went to my phony baloney remarks earlier of, was it a thing? If in fact that anything comes to light about Adidas helping out, would you buy my notion? Penn State nudging Adidas saying, "Hey, we're going to fire this coach. Could you give us some financial relief?" And let's say that you forced him out in some way and not us.
Oh yeah, I could totally see it, but they're never going to admit it because if they admitted that, that would be a whole new low of epic proportion. Hey, let's take some of our distribution and equipment sponsor revenue and let's pay the coach to go away. So you have to remember another thing also, and you would know this a little better than me, but what happens now is and I heard this and I didn't understand it. The sports departments are responsible for paying the coach and the NILs. It's technically not the school who's doing it. I don't know if you've heard that lately, but
I have actually.
But I've read like that it said Penn State Athletics is responsible for the buyout, not the school. But aren't they all? But isn't it the school?
I mean, you would think. Now, unless it's different. Now, maybe it's different, Nick, as we said, though, regarding that. Yeah, the school budget's one thing. Here's the budget for the athletic department. That might be where it is. But then again, though, Nick, it could be different, though, from state to state for all that we know.
But I just found that fascinating that they said
Same.
the athletics department budget, not the school. You would think the budget is all the school, though. But I don't know. This is not over. It's not over.
No, it's not, and I'm sure that as the next several days, weeks go on, as the Nittany Lions continue to tread water in the Big Ten, that maybe more comes out of this. I mean, Nick, before we get to our next topic real quick, more viable landing spot for James Franklin, coaching somewhere else or joining television?
He's not a bad coach. He's got a little bit of an ego problem. He almost got into a fight with a fan at their home stadium in Penn State. Would he be great in media? Yeah, he would be very good in media. I'm sure he'd be great on a college game day. I could see him I could see him on Big Noon Kickoff. Actually, that one makes more sense because he's in the Big Ten.
So.
But I don't know if there's a space for him. I guarantee they would make a space for him, probably knowing his name and reputation. So, does he want to coach again? I'm not sure. That has to be a motivating factor of does he want to go back and coach, or does he want to go to the media and make it easier? And the difference factor of the salaries, he'll still get paid. Because in media, he's not going to make the same amount of money if he were to go back and coach somewhere else. So I would probably say media.
I think media as well. Speaking, Nick, of media, there's been a seismic shift in that is coming to the audio and video landscape as Netflix has now inked a new deal to bring the Bill Simmons podcast and other video content from The Ringer to its platform starting next year. The move takes the content from its current exclusive home at Spotify and puts it now on the world's largest streaming service. For Netflix, this secures a major pre-built and highly engaging audience for its growing sports adjacent live content division. For Bill Simmons himself and The Ringer, it represents a massive new global distribution opportunity, further blending the lines between traditional podcasting and premium streaming video. So, Nick, does the acquisition by Netflix of the Bill Simmons podcast and Ringer video content mark the moment that the world's most successful podcasting brands officially transition into a premium streaming video property like this in your mind? Or do you probably think, though, that this is going to be still an audio thing that will take precedent over video, in your opinion?
I don't love this, to be quite honest. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to bring podcasts and a faster medium to Netflix because Netflix is mostly a movie watching platform now with some live streaming sports, which is another thing we'll talk about later, that Netflix is kind of taking over the live sports streaming game.
Yeah, there's a lot of one-offs with Netflix, but nothing like on a consistent basis.
But I don't understand this. And I was watching something before we came on here because Awful Announcing does a podcast, and I was watching the show, and they were saying that this is their exclusive video platform going forward.
Interesting.
Meaning everything that you saw on YouTube, it's no longer going to be full shows on YouTube. Netflix is going to become their video partner. So if you want to say you're a Ringer podcast fan and you like the Bill Simmons podcast or the Zach Lowe show or the McShay show or their NFL shows and their NBA shows, if you want to watch the video version, you got to go to Netflix if you want it. You can still listen on Spotify because that's, as they were saying in the show, that pays the bills for the parent company for Spotify. But you now would have to pay for a premium platform like Netflix to watch podcasts.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right to me. Like, I know that you have certain podcasts behind a paywall. That's like Patreon, where if you want to watch that, or I forgot the name of the other one, which we were using.
Substack,
where you could technically put stuff behind a paywall. What we've learned over the years is people don't want to pay for stuff, for content. Like, unless you're a diehard fan of something, you're not going to spend the money. The example I've used a million times is look what happened to Howard Stern's radio show when it went from terrestrial radio to satellite. He had 20 million listeners a week on terrestrial radio. The show in rapid decline just because he's getting older. They're talking about like 200,000 people a week on SiriusXM, which you have to pay for. So I get what they're doing. This gives Netflix the ability to have what were you saying before? Where you put a playlist up and you could just watch stuff on Netflix. But are you really going to pay for Netflix just to have background sound behind you? If I'm paying for Netflix, I want to watch shows. I want to sit and watch something. I'm not just going to put background fodder behind me on Netflix and pay whatever because Netflix has gotten expensive now. But I get the method and I know what Spotify is trying to accomplish, but I just don't see the resemblance or where it pays off.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to pay $7.99 per month with ads to watch Bill Simmons, or who wants to watch or pay $18 a month for ad-free versions, or $25 per month for premium 4K with HDR video quality? Like, I think, Nick, that I don't know if this is the right thing to say though, but why does it kind of feel like though that now the Ringer and Bill Simmons might be biting off more than they can chew by going the route of moving the video side of it to behind the paywall? I get that they still have the Spotify outlet though, but people probably also enjoy the video element of actually seeing them and their reactions and all that. But now you're going to go, as you said though, fork out $8 a month to watch a video podcast you can listen to on Spotify. Come on now.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of goes back to what we've been saying for a while, and we could have talked about this, but we just didn't have the time. Clay Travis, who is becoming a huge free agent coming up very soon, was doing a syndicated radio show for iHeart. He does a lot of sports stuff for Fox. He's on Big Noon Kickoff. He does Outkick the Coverage, which is his show. He sold his platform to Fox for like hundreds of millions. And now he's saying to himself, I don't need this platform anymore. I can go do my own thing. What I'm thinking here is Bill Simmons and the Ringer they don't want to do the video work. So it's called farm out. They want to farm it out to Netflix and say, you do the work. We'll show up and do the shows. And Netflix is paying on top of it. So they're licensing the content to Netflix. They're getting fees to do the show, and they're taking care of the video. So to them, it's a home run because they're doing less of the production side. So I don't see where the issues are for them, but I'm not going to go and watch these podcasts on Netflix. Like, also, you can't flip around while you're on Netflix. Another issue, which I've said a million times.
Just like Prime Video. And like, I'm reading the story and they're talking about, they're kind of like over accentuating. Oh, look at our amazing deal that we made with Spotify. No, you're overselling because you don't know how to really market it or how to market podcasts on a show watching platform. So I don't know. I don't think this is a no-brainer. I think this is disaster. Yeah, disaster. Especially again, $8 a month to watch a podcast you can get on Spotify. Make it stop.
Yeah.
All right, Nick, you ready to talk about your favorite WNBA player of all time?
I guess.
With that in mind, folks, obviously you probably saw, though, but WNBA superstar Angel Reese has now expanded her brand portfolio once more as she became an angel, literally and figuratively, for Victoria's Secret as she, following her recent deal with Reese's Candy during the course of her rookie season. The move is a strategic step into the high-profile fashion and lifestyle market, maximizing her name and furthermore injecting more NIL value into her brand portfolio. But as usual, folks, you know very well that my co-host Nick Morgeson has been a vocal critic, though, of what he views as Reese's overemphasis on off-the-court celebrity status and her endorsement deals, suggesting it has detracted from the dedicated commitment necessary for a pro basketball career, especially after a very tumultuous 34-loss season for the Chicago Sky, including, as we have long said, though, about Angel Reese, also publicly name-dropping the head coach, Ty Marsh, and fellow teammates in some very scathing season-wide criticism back in early September. But, Nick, though, is Angel securing this massive global brand like Victoria's Secret a sign, though, that players must, though, prioritize building their personal brands and portfolios over team focus to earn a fair living system in the current a fair living in the current system of where the league currently is? Obviously, Nick, we also read a follow-up story after the show had ended. By the way, Angel and USA gymnast Suni Lee became the first ever female athletes to walk in the fashion show for Victoria's Secret. On top, though, Nick, too, that we also had read, courtesy of MSN.com, that there was a statement made by Angel. She had hired a modeling coach like 6 days before the show took place, I believe on Wednesday. And then later on in the story, as we had said last week, though, regarding how Angel had talked about the Me Bounds merchandise, and it was a six-figure, check for her, basically, that the story also, in a way, Nick, said that the exit interview that she was supposed to give to Team Media came on that outlet and not via the franchise and not via the right avenue. As we also, Nick, had reported, though, that the Sky basically said Reese, Courtney Vandersloot, and Ariel Atkins, two of the players that Angel had named publicly in her remarks about the franchise's culture and the season, would not give their time to the media. Because as I was of the belief, Nick, those two players probably, Nick, would have said a lot of very foul things about what Angel said about them. But, Nick, go for it. What do you got?
This whole thing is a disaster. Like, it's a massive disaster. Angel does not care about basketball. Can we just flatly say she does not care about basketball whatsoever? Because, one, it started with all the Me Bounds BS. Then she makes a video, which we shared, I think it was last week.
Actually, I would probably reverse back a bit and go back to when she got the deal with Reese's Puffs and the Reese's Candy Company her rookie year, then everything else that followed too. Because as we said, though, or as we talked about last night, she did score even further, Nick. Reese's Candy. She had her own combo meal at McDonald's.
Oh, that's right.
She has deals with Cash App, who I use pretty often for, when people want to pay me back for work or for tickets for games. She's got I think a beauty company is also part of it. And now perhaps here with Victoria's Secret, which also, by the way, did kind of in a way check like a career bucket list item off of her list from 2014 when she had tweeted out about being a part of the show. But I think, Nick, we have to go further back than just now with the Me Bound, but McDonald's, Reese's, Cash App, Beauty Line, you name it.
Is she a basketball player or is she an influencer? I mean, because she said, well, I want to get my game better. I want to be. No, you don't. You don't. You want to be an influencer. Just admit it. Because all those deals you just mentioned, McDonald's, Reese's, Cash App, I mean, and now being a Victoria's Secret Angel. And by the way, can we stop with the whole, Reese's is my last name, so I made a deal with Reese's. Oh, look, I'm a Victoria's Secret Angel, and Angel, and blah, blah. Stop. Please. This is becoming excruciatingly painful watching all this break down. And by the way, insulting your own teammates on top of it. You're not a professional. You're a BS artist. You're more about the finances. Trust me. Do we all want to be successful in life and make a living so that we don't have to work as hard to do certain things? Yeah. But this is like taking influencer to a whole new level. Stop with the podcast. You gave your freaking exit interview on a podcast. In what other media landscape, other professional sport, do you give an exit interview on a podcast?
I mean, why would I feel like, though, that's something Paul George would have done? But at least, as I've long said, though, we both have said he had the wherewithal and the smarts to stop the show when the Sixers were going sideways and he was hurt last season.
Well, in the toilet, essentially. Angel doesn't care about basketball. She is what I think is going to happen at some point, and you've said it. Like
The
eventually,
ultimatum is going to have to come out.
yeah, and she's been hurt also.
Bad back, I think back injury. I think she had a wrist problem at one point. I also know. I don't know if it was the full year, but for a good chunk of the season, she did have like her left thumb
Yeah.
also severely wrapped up too. Not severely, but wrapped up at least though. And that is her dominant hand though to shoot the ball too.
I mean, she should just go be an influencer because that's really what she does best. She wants to host a podcast. She wants to do all this stuff. She wants to go be a Victoria's Secret angel. I mean, where is the time for basketball?
Which went back to my point from last week that, again, can someone get in her ear and kind of talk her to worry about on court while still focusing on the off court endeavors? But the pie needs to be 99.9% basketball and 0.1% off the court and off the court. Now, I think the question though, Nick, is still valid because of where the league is currently at, as we're going to talk about here in just a moment, that maybe in some way, if you are a player, you've got to find some way right now, away from Unrivaled, to try to find ways to get revenue in right now. Because we don't know, Nick, what's going to happen in roughly 13 days or 15 days.
Right. I mean, and is her value the same if the WNBA is locked out compared to everything else she's doing? People are going to say because she's a bigger brand. Is she a bigger brand? I would debate that partially. I would say Caitlin Clark is a much bigger brand than Angel Reese is, and she cares more about basketball than Angel Reese does. If she wasn't hurt, they could have had a potential to win the WNBA finals this year. The way the Fever were playing, like there was
that they played without Caitlin, though, was just still it's mind-boggling. Like they got to a game 5 in the semifinals, and no one had them being there.
But just imagine if she was able to play or come back after that. That would have been an interesting WNBA finals. Her versus Asia Wilson. I mean, whoa, the headlines of that. But I don't know. She's gonna do what she wants. Angel Reese is like the baseball version of Manny being Manny, where Manny Ramirez would just do whatever he wants. He would go to the bathroom inside the Green Monster and almost miss a play. He grew his hair out. He would do whatever he wanted. He could demand whatever he wanted because he was a big name. That's Angel Reese. Refusing to not play the last game of the year, sitting in what looked like model's clothing on the sideline. I don't have any respect for her because she claims to be a basketball player. She's not.
Yeah, and Nick will go to the grave saying that you can run down the stat lines of the double doubles in the 30 rebound games. At the end of the day, sadly, the team record read 10-34, tied with Dallas, who canned their head coach for the worst record in the entire league. On top of the fact that her name's in trade rumors now because of how the 2 years have gone.
But who's going to want her though?
Say again?
Who's going to want her though? Like that unless you're looking at jersey sale value, which I don't know if there's any value there.
I mean, I'm of the belief that maybe there's an expansion team who probably would take her in some way and in some weird way maybe snap her into reality.
And what was the ridiculous rumor that you and I were discussing? Oh, New York.
New York was one of them. We heard Toronto and Portland, Seattle, I think Washington, which would be in a way like Elena Delle Donne leaving to Chicago to go because as big mouth guy here has long said, the Chicago Sky have been a very interesting, discombobulated, fractured franchise since opening day of their franchise, where so many big name players have left the organization because there's some weird voodoo, some weird kind of disconnect between upper management and the roster with the coaches, where it's like it's for me, Nick, it's unfathomable that a franchise can have so much great, like so many big names who did not want to play there because of whatever the reasons were when it came to the GM or the ownership or team chemistry, whatever it might be. It's just, appalling about how a franchise who's already won a championship, I know it's a completely different team, but they seem to lose big name players like almost every other year. In a way, it's like the Padres having a new manager every 2 years in baseball.
I mean, this is not your Kansas Park or Chicago Sky. Like
No.
when they won the title in 21. I mean,
It's not even the Deladon team that got to the finals in 2014 and lost to Phoenix.
So Angel Reese can't be a leader. I'm just going to throw that out there too, from a WNBA standpoint. She's too busy wanting to interview rappers on her podcast and not make her game better on the court. Like I saw a few videos where apparently she was out shooting threes in a practice court, but that's not her game. It's not her game. And rebounding is not a game. It's a trait.
Yeah.
So I don't know. She's never going to be a successful WNBA player.
I mean, and the only thing I'll say though is that the college success always doesn't follow you to the pros.
Thank you.
And that's in a way where Angel, in a way, made her bread and butter was winning that title over Caitlin Clark, and how they had the back and forth with, the John Cena references, the ring finger pointing, but as I always say though, with Angel, Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, your college success always doesn't follow you. Now, the only thing I will say, the only line of defense though for Angel Reese, from my perspective, again, I probably am one of the very few who defends her on this network in some way, shape, form, or size, is again, this all can wait when you're done. But right now, where we're at with being 15 days away from the biggest date in WNBA history, where the league is going to lock out on Halloween night, go and chase the off-court bag. I mean, that might be a hot take, sadly, Nick. But with where everybody is at, with 80% of this league being free agents at some point in time, and
I think it's more.
And the threat, and again, the threat looming, as we're going to talk about here too in a moment, with the WNBA, trying to, in a way, recoup losses or patch up the player relationship. For every player out there, go and make the bag somewhere. And if that includes, Met galas and fashion shows and whatever it might be, do whatever you probably have to do before Unrivaled begins, where you have some kind of financial security until the Unrivaled season begins, once, in fact, the chains go up and the doors are locked, though, at your facilities across the league.
See, let me clarify one thing. So I'm not against players making money. Let me be very clear about that. But there's other avenues, I guess, is the way I would put it,
True.
that are more associated to basketball.
Like go be an analyst for ESPN or your conference TV station.
Right. Or do a podcast, not a stupid podcast of pop culture. I just don't care. Like, do I need to know the 40 outfits Angel Reese laid out for the whole entire season? No, I don't. Like, she acts like everybody wants to know that. No, I don't think anybody asked for that at all. And the other thing is, like, she's so egotistical. Oh, I made the Me Bounds merch because people made fun of me, and I made the bag. I made the 6-figure bag. Okay, what do you want? Do you want like a whoa? Like,
no, we have a developing story, Nick, that I'd like to get to real quick from the NHL.
Yeah.
This just came across from ESPN NHL insider Emily Kaplan. Carter Hart, one of the Hockey 5 Canada players who was acquitted of the charges within the last couple months, will be joining the Vegas Golden Knights on a paid tryout. If the Knights do sign him, he's eligible to begin playing in the NHL come December 1st. The Knights did release a statement real quick within the last 15 minutes per reports. They write in part, following the reinstatement decision agreed on by the NHL and NHLPA, goaltender Carter Hart will be joining the Vegas Golden Knights organization. The Golden Knights are aligned with the process and assessment that the NHL and NHLPA made in their initial decision. We do remain committed to the core values that have defined our organization from its inception, and expect that our players will continue to meet these standards moving forward. Which, of course, Nick, we remember talking a few weeks ago regarding the fact that the Golden Knights stripped Mark Lazarus of his credentials for asking Noah Hannafin about how would you feel if your team signed one of these 5 players to a contract. And here, Nick, Carter Hart potentially going to be joining the Golden Knights within the next 2 months.
If that happens, you got to give the guy his credential back. Like, sorry, like if he's going to be part of the team that the person was covering, that's a little bit of hypocrisy, if you ask me here a little bit. Now, obviously, just to give people feedback, obviously, we're talking about the 5 hockey players that were under fire. What was the exact story again, just in short term?
Yeah, so in short, they were acquitted of a essentially almost gang rape and gang sexual assault at a awards gala in 2019, I believe, for the World Junior Hockey team winning the gold medal.
Let's be very clear. There's no room for that shit in this world. If you do something like that, you should be in jail. Number one, you commit that crime. If you're acquitted, that's a whole different issue. If it's proven that you're not part of the charges, then you have to stop talking about those players that way and let them come back in the league if they want to play. The problem is the reputational damage is done regardless whether you did it or you didn't do it. The court of public opinion or the court of public perception has already damaged you in that way.
Yeah, and a quick follow-up too, that the 5 players were allowed to sign a contract beginning October 1st. They, though, are still facing suspension until December the 1st, when they can actually start playing games for whoever does sign them. And again, we talked a bit before we move back onto the WNBA here in a second. Again, that Carter Hart, perennially Kaplan of ESPN, again, longtime former Flyers goaltender, is joining the Golden Knights right now, I believe, per reporting, on a paid tryout contract, and would not be eligible to play in a game for Vegas until December the 1st. Again, he is one of the first. He is the first of the Hockey 5 Canada players to actually, per reports, get a contract offer and sign it since the deadline since the window opened up 15 days ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Do I think he's ever? Any of the 5 players are going to fully play?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Is it good to see that someone is taking a chance on somebody? Yeah. You've heard me say a million times, including this network, you've heard me say, there are people who deserve second chances in life. If you burn that second chance in life, I can't do anything for you after that. But I've always believed in second chances because people change in life. But this is a much more serious situation in regard to these rape allegations. But if they were acquitted, then you got to let it go.
Which they were. And again, we'll keep an eye on that story, though, folks. But once more, Carter Hart, again, the first of the Hockey Canada 5. Again, per reports of Emily Kaplan, signing a contract with the Vegas Golden Knights. Will not be eligible to play, though, until December the 1st. Nick, back in the WNBA, the latest CBA agreement proposal included a substantial financial increase for players, including the Supermax salary going closer to $850,000 and veterans minimum going up to about $300,000 in the first year of the deal. Now, while the numbers are dramatically higher than the current figures of $250,000 and $79,000, the two sides remain, though, at odds. The fact that the players are still resisting such a massive pay bump suggests that non-monetary issues like travel, prioritization rules, and the league's governance are proving to be major sticking points for the WNBPA. But Nick, if the WNBA's new proposal includes a near four-fold increase in the Supermax and veteran minimum, is the WNBPA's is the Players Association being unreasonable by remaining at odds with the league over non-financial issues? I say no.
I don't think they're being unreasonable because I think we're looking at the wrong number in this scenario. Is it good that they finally raised the numbers to Supermaxes at $850,000 and a veteran minimum hovering around $300,000? Yeah, that's great. They finally raised the number, but we're looking at the wrong number.
Yes,
the number that we really should be looking at is player revenue for the league. So when you look at the NBA gets, I think the NBA players get 49%, I think, or it could be a 50-50, I think. So they get 50% of the league-wide revenue when it comes in. The number that we're not paying, that you and I know, but that most people are not paying attention to, is 9% of
As we did
league-wide
last week.
revenue. So people need to realize 9% is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. 50% in the NBA is you split the revenue. How is the WNBA only giving the players 9% of revenue? That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And that's where I think more of the sticky point is.
And Nick, I said that first day here back in April, 6 months ago. We heard Shanae Agumake talk about that with Malika Andrews and Andrea Carter during game 1 of the finals on ESPN, that the players do not want the LeBron or Luka style contracts. That's the one thing that people need to get through their heads. They're not out here wanting $350 million baseball size contracts.
I mean,
they want a bigger slice of what the revenue is for basketball. 9% is not going to cut it. If you go to maybe 30%, 40%, 25%, I don't know what that number would look like or be, but that's all that they've been clamoring for and wanting, especially, Nick, with where the league has gone these last 2 seasons, if not even before the Caitlin Clark effect took place.
To be honest, the WNBA really should be a 50-50 because the players are the name value, brand recognition. More, and this is going to sound crazy what I'm about to say, the WNBA player value of names is more in the WNBA than it is in the NBA.
Which, by the way, Nick, goes to one of your good points. And I think Zan even agreed with you on ETB Sports a few weeks ago. We now, Nick, live in a day and age where the average sports fan, average basketball fan can name more than 1 or 2 WNBA players now.
Yes, that's a point I've been making for quite a while now, that when you go down the line, you can name the Caitlin Clarks and the Breanna Stewarts and the Sabrina Nescu's and the Asia Wilsons and Jackie Youngs and so on and so forth. I could name probably 20 or 25 players when about 5 or 6 years ago. And again, no disrespect to the sport, but I couldn't name as many players as I could now. So name brand recognition is way more valuable in the WNBA than, like I said, I think sometimes in the NBA. Because the NBA has its fan bases and it has its team's brands. Now, a LeBron is a standout.
Giannis,
SGA,
Tatum.
Why am I forgetting? San Antonio.
Victor
Wembanyama, who I saw in person, by the way, and he's huge as a building. But
Anthony Edwards.
Right. Those are separate brand names in the NBA. Do they drive the full NBA, though? I would say no.
No.
They happen to play in the NBA, which helps more recognition for fans.
Steph Curry.
In the NBA, Steph Curry. In the WNBA, the names matter. They drive the fans to go to games. That's all that these fans care about. That's why the New York Liberty has been one of the more successful franchises in the past, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Because they have a Breanna Stewart and a Sabrina Ionescu and so on and so forth to build that franchise. Look at the Aces. 3 out of the last 4 years, they've won the WNBA title. Asia Wilson is one of the bigger names across the WNBA circle because of it. First player in WNBA history to win an MVP, a Finals MVP, a Defensive Player of the Year, and I think she led the league in scoring, if I'm not mistaken. So we're not taking brands, and far more awareness are not being taken to WNBA because they're driving it. It's not advertisers. NBA There's more advertiser revenue. There's more fan base that they can lean upon. WNBA, they got to lean on the names, and that's why they need to be a 50-50 split.
I couldn't agree more. Nick, we'll get to one last story here before we get to the top of the hour. Kind of here real quick. We'll speed through this one here. Following, Nick, a potential decision by the NCAA to allow jersey patches for the first time ever, sources now indicate that LSU has already begun to get a deal ready, and it's ready to go for the new advertising space. The development shows the immediate commercialization and the commercial agility of major college programs like LSU in the speed at which they will move to monetize every available piece of athletic inventory. The jersey patch represents a new high visibility and highly valuable revenue stream for athletic departments that are eagerly seeking new ways to fund rising expenses, including athletic revenue sharing models. Nick, real quick here, will the speed at which LSU is working to monetize the jersey patch space force the NCAA to add even stricter guidelines to prevent the commercialization of uniforms from overwhelming the visual identity of sports? Nick, we're in the Wild West right now with college athletics, so who really cares, right?
Yeah, I mean, this deal apparently was agreed to before they even got approval for making these jersey patch deals. So, and this is a major money deal too, from what I'm hearing.
Same.
Uh,
Yeah.
So, I mean, this goes back to a last example, like the WNBA. They now have team sponsors now that they were across. The NBA, I think, has started to do it. If you look on the in the NHL, across the walls when on the ice, they're all over it. Brand recognition is just taking over. It's a little too much.
And
if you ask me.
especially now, Nick, that teams like San Diego, Utica, New York, and I believe Portland, Oregon are now adding digital dasher boards around the full rink that they can change during the course of the game where it's not stagnant or, static. And
Well,
now you can that in a way will elevate, revenue too, perhaps in a way as well.
you're talking about like the hologram things like they do on TV where they
Yes.
can switch them out. Like in this inning, like you'll see it on the mound sometimes, like on the S Network here in New York when the Yankee games. Like every inning, they flip the hologram. That's TV, by the way. That's not in the stadium.
Yeah.
So they'll like flip it like every inning. I'm like, really? You're that desperate that you need one? Like,
That's like soccer leagues have remember when the Raptors had that 3D sideline
yes,
word mark? They will do
yes.
that for soccer games behind the goals.
I think we're a little bit on brand overload when it comes to some of this stuff where, oh, we got to put a sponsor on every space we can find in our arena or our stadium. No, you don't. You
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah, I mean, my university's not that bad, but we do though list if you walk the bowels of the Jenny Craig Pavilion, you will notice though at certain areas that all the donors have their names on certain walls of the venue. Same at the football stadium where the touchdown club has all the people who've given to USD football. That's the thing too at, the baseball complex, the softball complex, that I think more now, Nick, is that this is becoming a thing even more now than maybe 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's brand exhaustion and brand overload really at this point, but it's just going to get worse because these are big market franchises or sports and they're desperate to make money, even if it means selling their own souls to kind of get where they want to get.
That was like before we get to a read for Novig. That was like when Harbaugh was coaching at Michigan. A family bought the rights to have their name attached to the head coaching title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure about that. But before we get to the top of the hour, let's tell you about Novig. So this show is powered by Novig, America's #1 sports prediction market, available right now in 35 states, including right there in California, Texas, Florida, Georgia, and New York. On Novig, you're 10 times more likely to win long term compared to a traditional sports book because you're playing against real users and not against the house. Sign up today and use promo code ETB Network, ETBNETWORK, for exclusive bonuses. And if you spend $5 on your account, you will get $50 in bonus plays to use at your own leisure. So please go use our promo code ETB Network, ETBNETWORK, and spend $5, get $50. Must be 21 plus years older to play responsibly. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So let's take a look here.
Got a couple of bonuses, Nick. We got a 25% boost for TNF and the NLCS and a 15% one for the NHL tonight.
All right, so let me open mine quickly as well. So just to clarify also, there are coins and there are Nova Cash. You could do either one, and you can actually transfer them to one side or the other. So let's take a look. So we have Thursday Night Football tonight. So let's claim a 25% Thursday night boost. So it says that we need to spend 10 Nova coins or 10 Nova Cash for 300 plus or longer. So
who you feeling here? Either Old Man Rogers or Old Man Flacco?
Oh, the Steelers are playing amazing football right now, and
5.5 right now on the spread.
I would take the spread. I think the money line's too easy. They're going to win. That's not the issue here. It's whether they cover. I think they cover. And what did it say? We needed 300 plus 300 for it to count. Let me see. Yeah, I think you need 300 to count. So we'll do Steelers minus 5.5. Let's see if we can find another one down here. Oh, I like the Jets to cover. If we want to do that one. I mean, not the Jets, the Panthers, excuse me. I like the Panthers to cover.
Minus 1.5?
Yeah. So that gives us plus 279. So we need one more.
Dolphins, Browns, Bucks, Lions.
We also have a baseball game tonight.
Brewers and Dodgers at 3:00 today.
Just to play it safe, if we're going to do a parlay, I would probably take a money line on that so you hit something. So I would take Dodgers money line. That gives us plus 502, and that allows you to activate the Thursday boost. You see it there, Callan, over there?
There we go.
I think.
No, we would need one more football play, it looks like, for TNF.
Oh, all right. Let's go back. So let's remove the baseball game. And let's go to... Let's see. All right. Let's go... Wow, that Lions-Bucks game is a good one. Man, this is tough. Let's go with Eagles money line. We'll do that. Why can't it be? That's weird. It's not letting me do it.
I guess it's just for TNF, it looks like they're saying.
So we have to pick 3 things for Thursday Night Football? Is that what they're saying? Oh,
Apparently
okay.
so. There we go.
All right, let's do it that way. What happened?
Apparently this is what... Oh, some picks can't be parlayed. Okay.
All right, let's try this again. So we're going to do Pittsburgh minus 5.5. Let's go into the game. Let's see, anytime touchdowns. Okay, I'm going to go DK Metcalf a touchdown.
Anytime touchdown?
Yes, correct. Let's see. We'll go. And let's go. I'm going to go DK Metcalf over 66.5 yards. Okay. Now I should be able to. Yep. Now I can activate this boost. So
There we go.
So Pittsburgh -5.5, DK Metcalf over 66.5 yards, and a DK Metcalf anytime touchdown.
Pittsburgh -5.5 too.
Oh, you can't do 100. I think you can do up to 10. Okay, so
yeah, so 10 coins would win you 54 back for the single game parlay.
okay, so we're gonna place that. And that's your Press Row parlay for this week. We will check back on that. Sorry for the confusion, but those parlays the rules are a little confusing on that.
They are just a little bit.
But all right, let's get into it. So our first story for this hour is the Carolina Panthers reporter Xavier Legette joke fiasco. I think I brought this to your attention when it came out. So a Carolina Panthers reporter generated massive negative national attention after making a joke during a press conference that rookie wide receiver Xavier Legette's parents would not be Cowboys fans this week. The joke was made without the crucial knowledge that both of Legette's parents tragically passed away while he was still in high school. This profound lack of basic research and sensitivity led to immediate condemnation from the team, the league, and media peers. The incident serves as a stark warning about the need for empathy and basic diligence in a rushed media environment. Should a reporter's failure to research the most basic and tragic element of a player's background result in a career-defining consequence, or does it highlight a broader failure in the sports journalism industry's internal vetting?
Could this be a thing where both entities are in the wrong, but mainly that the reporter in question definitely needs not soul searching, but at least do some light reading, read the player's bio, look up his name, look for stories that are linked to him before you make that, punning joke about your family rooting for the opposing team because you're playing for a certain franchise?
First of all, I find it very tacky and corny when you hear, like, if your parents are a fan of a team, oh, well, I guess they're not going to be fans of that team. Okay. It's like the tackiest, corniest joke in the book, number one. And then it leads to stupid garbage nonsense like this, where it leads you to inaccurate information that you don't have.
Right.
You look like an idiot because, oh, well, I guess your parents are not fans. Well, maybe they're not fans because they're not here anymore. And people say, oh, well, maybe the reporter was not here. From what I understand, Xavier Legette has been covering the team since like 2013 or 2014. That's not an excuse. I don't care. First of all, that shouldn't be an excuse, period.
Yeah, it's not.
If you don't know that his parents are passed away, that's on you. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said though, like, before you asked, that tongue-in-cheek, very much, I think, overblown and really stupid question about, well, your parents aren't going to root for you today or root for the opposed team and root for you. Again, that has no bearing on anything. Just more importantly, again, just do your damn research. Like, it's not that hard.
You know what? I said this. This is another thing I said to you last night, where if you get like a stat wrong, like because you're in a rush, that's one thing. Because it doesn't affect someone's personal life, so to speak, if you get one little stat wrong when you're talking about a game.
This though is a whole different thing.
Not knowing that his parents are not alive anymore, that's kind of a very serious thing. Is it fireable? That's debatable. Do I think it kind of calls journalistic integrity into question a little bit? Yeah,
Absolutely.
it does. Because why would you even say that? Then you wouldn't say that if he knew that, he would never have said that.
And more importantly, I feel terrible for Xavier Legette. If that, I can only imagine hearing that question, and then I hate to say it, Nick, but it's a T word. It's called trauma. You get all the flashbacks and all that. And, here you're worrying about trying to play a professional sport and trying to make, a career, making your parents proud because of, their sacrifices to help get you to the pros. Then you have some idiot not do their research, make this, again, very phony, baloney, ridiculous, no value added question. That's always a pet peeve of mine, Nick, is all of these, very much out of bounds or stupid questions that get asked at press conferences. Like, Nick, Barry Bloom from Sportico very well.
Yes.
He was interviewing now former Padre manager Mike Shildt in the pregame media scrum when Mike had his availability to the media, and people are asking, questions about the game. Barry Bloom's out here asking him a dumbass question. Hey, Mike, do you know the great history of Padre closers in the bullpen? Like, what in the hell does that have to do about tonight's game against Baltimore? Mike Shildt doesn't care about Mark Davis and Trevor Hoffman and Goose Gossage and Raleigh Fingers. He's worrying about how his team is supposed to win a game today. You really think Xavier Leggett wants to hear about his parents in a post-game press conference after they just had one of their best wins of the season over the hapless Dolphins right now? And we have a dumb, an idiot like this asking him about, well, you get to play the Cowboys next. How do you feel about, who are your parents cheering for? They've been gone since he was in high school. Really?
That has no bearing on his life currently, unfortunately, like in a sad way. But so I just looked this up. So David Newton has been covering the Panthers for ESPN since 2013. But wait, it gets even worse in this scenario because he first started covering the team in 1995 with the state newspaper.
So he's been there since their inaugural year as a franchise.
He's been covering this team since 1995. There's no excuses here whatsoever. It wasn't for ESPN, but he started with the state newspaper in Columbia, South Carolina. He joined ESPN in 2006 as a NASCAR reporter before becoming the Panthers' dedicated NFL reporter in 2013. Yeah, this is a really bad look. I don't know what to really how to comprehend it, to be quite honest. You feel bad for Leggett because no one wants to live through life without their parents. But I I don't know. This is a bad look for journalism and sports media, because how do you recover? You sound like an asshole because you thought you were making a joke, but in the long run, you kind of just spilled out his personal business, which was picked up by media outlets, picked up by social media. You could tell the awkwardness on Leggett's face when he's asked the question. I mean, it's just not a good look. It's so out of left field. It's not even funny. It's a dumb situation. Like, he probably should be fired now that I'm thinking about it.
I mean, if you've been covering a certain franchise for as long as the reporter has, again, where in 95 the Panthers became a team, you would probably hopefully know the ins and outs of what you probably should and shouldn't ask for. Again, that went to my point, though, a few minutes ago about Barry Bloom of Sportico asking a random question of Mike Shildt about, hey, do you happen to know the great history of Padre closers? Or Tom Krastovic of the local paper at a soccer game writing a story about the Wave playing in Seattle and saying, hey, do you know what the last time that there was a major football game of some type involved San Diego and Seattle was a Charger Seahawks game in 2007? Like, how does that have any bearing on a women's soccer team playing a game in Seattle, Washington just because, well, yeah, the Chargers played Seattle for so long in the AFC West, and it's like no one here cares about that sport. So why are you bringing it up though in the local paper?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really bad look. It's just it's an unfortunate situation, and there's really no other way to put it. I mean, if you can't be professional, let's think about something else for a second, which is what made you think as you approach him to say, "Oh, your parents are not going to root for you." That just sounds awkward and corny and ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't get it. Nick, let's move on here to the other version of football, but Netflix again is in the news, having reportedly submitted a bid for the media right deals for the ever famous UEFA Champions League, one of the most prestigious and globally viewed soccer competitions. The move marks a huge escalation in Netflix's foray into live sports, as the Champions League represents premium, consistent, high-value global content. Acquiring these rights would immediately challenge established sports broadcasters and require Netflix to solidify a reliable, mass-scale live streaming infrastructure, signaling that the global streaming wars are now fully focused on acquiring top-tier exclusive live sports. So, Nick, if somehow Netflix scores with the UEFA Champions League rights, does that permanently change the global perception of the service from an entertainment platform to a legitimate home for top-tier live competitive sports like UEFA?
No. You want my strict answer right off the bat? The answer is no. Is Netflix really a home for sports? You don't really think of it as a sports home. Okay, they got the NFL for 2 games for Christmas. Big deal. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we have another story coming up about how they claim they're not an NFL platform, even though they have 2 games, which is kind of BS. But you saw it with the tennis tournament, the Six Kings Slam that they're gaining the rights from T2 and oh god, what's the name of the wrestling the combat?
TKO.
No, but the Zone.
Yes.
But do I really want to watch sports on Netflix?
Not really.
They got the NFL. Okay, I tuned in for all of 5 minutes just because I wanted to see what it looked like. This is Amazon all over again. Like, all right, so at least with Prime Video, they're built out to be a sports platform. Netflix is not. They effed up royally on the Paul Tyson situation with all the streaming and all that nonsense that they didn't get right.
And I don't think that anyone's going to probably forgive Netflix because no one's getting their money back from that because of how much of a sham it was that evening.
Oh god, it was terrible. The connection issues, the mic issue.
Oh yeah, I watched it. It was awful.
I did too. I mean, the amount of money they spent on people to be there, which is ridiculous. But so what? They get the UEFA championships. Does that really change who they are as a company, Netflix? Does it maybe get them a little more international audience because people are going to have to go to Netflix to watch these matches? Sure. But is the US audience going to go to Netflix to watch UEFA? No. So I don't think this I don't think this makes them a more competitive platform at all.
No. By the way, Nick, one more wee-woo story. Yahoo Sports has reported that Colorado will not be fined by the Big 12 for their fans storming the field after they beat Iowa State on Saturday.
So why are they getting away with it, but other schools are not?
Who's their head coach again? Makes sense.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ.
Nick, more importantly, the next WNBA story, of course, we've also had talked about a little bit, though. But the league finals, it wrapped up in a 4-game sweep of by the Las Vegas Aces, though, Nick, were marred by 3 separate off-the-court media incidents, highlighting the high tension around the league. Of course, Nick, we saw firsthand here on playback that ESPN had to repeatedly blur the screen during Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's post-game remarks because of a fan flipping the double birds at her, a.k.a. the Bronx salute, as you always call it. In the meantime, too, Las Vegas Aces owner Mark Davis also publicly did announce that he was fined
by the league for speaking out about the ongoing CBA negotiations. And what we also saw in playing day 2 on Playback with myself, you, and Christy Wilson, that Nike had aired a congratulatory commercial for the Las Vegas Aces on winning their third title in 4 years. One problem. It happened after the third quarter of Game 4's ended, and the game had not been decided. The three incidents collectively paint a picture of internal dysfunction, leadership issues, and the chaotic optics surrounding the league's biggest event. So, Nick, out of the three of these finals fiascos from last week, is the most damaging, which of these, though, is the most damaging indicator of the league's inability to control their own narrative? And I think, Nick, though we said it, though you believe it's all three, I think it's only two of the three. But what do you got first?
The ESPN repeatedly screwing up the blurring of the screen was bad. Of course, that's really not 100% their fault, because when you have a commissioner as vile as Kathy Engelbert running your league, everyone does not like her. But at the same time, that's ESPN's fault for not knowing how to blur a screen when double birds hit the screen. Aces owner Mark Davis publicly stating and then getting fined. Sounds like he's on the player's sides, for crying out loud. Right?
And that goes to your favorite word that begins in the letter C and ends with the letter P.
God. You're right. I mean, I don't know. That one bothers me because he was trying to speak up for the players and then he gets fined for it. The Nike thing is stupid. That someone at ESPN should get fired.
Yeah, but that's why I said that two of the three were big. I mean, that's a flop by ESPN, and someone probably is out of a producer's role after that game concluded.
I mean, and I think I said this to you, like, because I worked in radio for a long time, and as a board op, everything is in the computer for us to play through the board. Now you can move stuff around, but you have to know. Like, we used to have to go through our logs before we sat down, like, to do our 6 or 7 hours of board opping. And so every once in a while, I would catch something that was not supposed to be in there. Because it was someone's job to program the whole day of commercials. And all of a sudden, I would find something that was out of date, sometimes the opposite way, where it was already out of date and they shouldn't be airing it. Or there was something that was not supposed to be airing yet, commercial-wise. And I'd have to go to them and say, hey, like, I got to take this out. And then they would give me the right one to put in the place of it because someone was in a rush and didn't watch what they were putting into the system. This is the same thing, just on a TV side. You have to know that if a commercial is labeled a certain way, you can't air it. That's a mistake. Because I remember you and I were sitting here watching that, and I said, why are they airing an A'ja Wilson? Congratulations to the Aces before the series. We knew they were going to win, but it was a little premature.
Maybe I think that maybe only one of these is a bigger fiasco. It's finding an owner speaking out and saying, I'm with the players. Get your head out of your ass, Engelbert, and frickin' get this thing done. Now, Nick, more importantly, the fan giving the Bronx salute. Let's also, Nick, revert back to Game 5 again between the Fever and Aces. Let's remember that a pre-recorded video by Kathy Engelbert was booed by a sellout crowd at Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas when it did come on the air.
Right.
I think, Nick, more importantly, it's a commissioner's office who has never had to deal with blowback like this from a fan base. Come on, Nick. You know very well it is customary, an annual tradition, that Gary Bettman gets booed when he comes out to give up a Stanley Cup. Same with Goodell, same with Manfred, same with Adam Silver, that this is, like, in a way, maybe uncharted territory. I think, though, Nick, that the bigger fiasco out of these three is hands down another person within the league gets fined for defending the players of this league. Plain and simple, cut and dry, take it to the bank.
Yeah, it's a bad situation all around because the WNBA, it all starts from the leadership down. I mean, like, if the commissioner doesn't know how to behave and handle things responsibly, you think everyone below them is going to be responsible below them? I
Oh,
mean,
hell no.
it all starts from the top. Now, the only reason, and it's kind of a happenstance for like Roger Goodell, because Roger Goodell makes billions for the league. So they look past part of his behavior and the way that he acts. Adam Silver, a little bit the same thing, where he will do some questionable things, but he makes a lot of money for the league, so they don't question it. Rob Manfred, on the other hand, that's where you kind of start to teeter partially because people are getting pissed at him because like you're gonna have opening day on Netflix, and then you're gonna have NBC and Peacock, and then ESPN, and then so on and so forth. Like people are getting angry at him, and I think the owners are starting to get a little pissed because they're not making enough money out of the league. So it all depends on the situation of whatever league you're dealing with.
I agree as well. Nick, back in college athletics here, this one's kind of, in a way, this is something else. The Big Ten Conference now, Nick, per reports, is in deep negotiations with UC Investments, the fund that manages the University of California System's massive endowment, for a potential $2.4 billion cash infusion in exchange for a stake in ownership and also the league's new commercial business subsidiary. This is an unprecedented event in college athletics, as a university's financial entity is investing directly into the commercial revenue stream of a athletic conference, including the athletic programs of competing schools. The deal promises a massive advance for NIL and transfer portal arms race, but raises serious ethical questions and governance concerns about the mingling of institutional and commercial interest. So, Nick, how much of an unfair immediate financial advantage will the $2.4 billion UC Investments deal grant the Big Ten in the escalating arms race for top recruits and talent in the NIL era? All I have to say is, holy cow, what's going on here?
Yeah, who would have thought private equity would have entered college sports, let alone college football? I mean, wow, 2.4 billion. Now, just to clarify more on this situation, this is from a California pension fund situation where they would give this money and then in turn they would get a percentage of the business that's involved in the financial end for the Big Ten. If you had told me years ago that we'd have private equity entering the fray of college sports, I would have looked at you and everybody else and said, this is nuts. This is crazy nonsense going on. But because of NIL and because of the way name, image, and likeness has taken over college sports, these schools don't have enough money to invest in the name, image, likeness of these players. And also, they need to make a return. So that's why they need to take private equity, because they're not going to have enough money to survive.
Yeah, I mean, this is very much, Nick, uncharted territory regarding the fact that now the endowment for the UC systems, which again is a lot of money out here in California for the UCs.
Yeah, for the pension fund, yeah.
Injecting money of potentially $2.5 billion for a stake in the league's new commercial business subsidiary. I mean, just when you think that you've got everything figured out right now on the roadmap of either success or failure for college athletics, Nick, a story like this drops and it's like another bomb being dropped at the doorstep of the ever-changing college landscape. And, you know, I have to make reads, you know, for NIL at my university. I have told you, and this is a thing now, Nick, where if people buy season tickets, they tack on like an extra fee of like $100 that goes directly to the athletic fund to help with NIL collectives and stuff. And, you know, all these new things that are starting, especially though for a mid-major conference like the WCC is one thing. But Nick, this in a way though is just, adding, for one, it adds more though for like the Big Ten, but also more importantly, Nick, now you really they'll begin to wonder if any smaller conferences or universities eventually implode because they just can't financially compete to keep kids at the school.
So I found information on the actual deal, which you'll find interesting in a lot of aspects. So the framework of the groundbreaking deal, this is from ESPN, by the way, would send a significant infusion of money in the range of $100 million at minimum to each of the Big Ten schools. $100 million.
That's that's for 16
I think
Big
so.
Ten schools.
In exchange, the league would spin off a new entity, Big Ten Enterprises, which would hold all league-wide television rights and sponsorship contracts through 2046. Individual schools still would retain local radio and other deals. Now listen to this part. Share of ownership in Big Ten Enterprises would fall to the league's 18 schools, not 16.
Okay, 18. Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know that number either. So, actually, you know who would have been great for this story?
Mr. Bando.
Because he's a Big Ten guy with Illinois. So it says, share the ownership of Big Ten Enterprise would fall to the league's 18 schools, the conference office, and the Capital Group, an investment fund that's tied to the University of California pension system. The UC Pension Fund, would receive a 10% stake in Big Ten Enterprises and would hold typical minority investor rights, but no direct control. The exact equity amounts per school in Big Ten Enterprises are still being negotiated. It says there's expected to be a small difference in the percentage of the remaining equity between the schools that would favor the league's biggest athletic brands. Oh, God. So they're going to in favor the bigger schools. But it is likely to be less than a percentage point. There is also expected to be a tier system for initial payments, with the lowest amount in the 9-figure range. Large athletic departments could receive above $150 million.
Good grief.
It says the deal would call for an extension of the Big Ten's grant of rights through 2046, providing long-term stability for the conference and making both further expansion and any chance schools leave for formation of a so-called Super League. If you remember, we talked about that way back when.
Which essentially, I think, is where we're going to be heading pretty soon. It'll be the Pac-12, the Big Ten, SEC, and maybe in the ACC, and then there's going to be a bunch of subdivisions like the WCC underneath the Pac-12 brand, for example, or Big 12 brand.
This is crazy, though. $150 million a school, and this University of California pension fund is going to receive 10% of Big Ten Enterprises, all just because they want to do private equity.
Let me look this up real quick.
Oh wait, it says the pension fund is not a private equity firm.
Because all the UCs out here are public schools.
It says pension fund is not a private equity firm, which has been attractive to the Big Ten and its schools. The UC fund valuation proved to be higher than any other competing bids.
By the way, Nick, I just pulled this up before we move on here. Take a wild guess at which school for the fall of 2024 had the largest endowment for the UC system out here in California.
Meaning they get an investment or what?
How much do you think that the endowment would be for the fall year of 2024 for any UC university?
Oh, God, I have no idea. I wouldn't even know where to start with that.
UCLA, $4.30 billion in endowment. Fall of last year.
What? That's their expenses, you're saying? Or what do you mean?
The endowment is assets managed by campus foundations, including investment allocations to the General Endowment Pool, or GEP, and short-term investment pool. UCLA was worth over $4.3 billion last school year.
That's crazy.
So this is the endowment thing that we're talking about here, where it's a $2.4 billion injection into this, infusion for the Big Ten. So UCLA, who was in the Big Ten, Nick, $4.30 billion of endowment.
That's crazy. Oh my God.
Cal Berkeley, the Golden Bears in the ACC, $3.11 billion.
And that's how much they're worth?
Mm-hmm.
So this deal doesn't even cover most schools.
UC San Francisco, who has no athletic department, but they're a big medical university, $3.09 billion.
So endowment is basically value, is what
Yes.
you're telling me. That's nuts. So this deal would not even cover values of some schools.
Exactly. It is essentially an income or form of property given or given to someone, which is what endowment reads here when it comes to the universities of the California system.
Here's the problem. We've kicked the ball, and actually I should just use the term because we have a show named after it. We've moved the goalposts so far that there's no turning back. Now, there's so much investment. There's so much money being invested. Of course, they're choosing to say it's not private equity. It's just another BS term for private equity, even though it's not.
UC San Diego, Nick, who we talked about, is going to be leading the Big West for the West Coast Conference in 2 years and is the first public school to enter the conference in 1979. Their endowment locally here is $1.59 billion, and their campus size is over 44,000 students. There's only 2 schools in the UC system, Nick, who have below 10,000 kids at their universities.
Here's the thing. So in business, like you see like millionaires investing in tech or in medicines or in, I don't know, food or whatever.
Yes.
And like they actually, what they really call that is venture capital.
Yes.
Is you're just people, you find this rich billionaire who just says, I don't really care. As long as I know the formulaic stuff of the business, I'm willing to put an investment as long as I get my investment. To be honest, they are right. It's not private equity. It's venture capital.
It is. It's venture capital.
Let's call a spade a spade. This is venture capital. You can call it a pension fund all you want. That's just a nice way of saying that it's what did I just say? Venture capital.
Yeah.
It's really venture capital because you're getting an equity stake and they're not looking fully at the numbers. They just say, oh, well, we're venture capital. Let's just throw the money in. We get 10%. They're going to make that money back in spades on that Big Ten Enterprises, that 10%. That's going to be worth billions someday, that 10%.
2.4 billion, though, is just unfathomable of where things are at.
So
I'll take 10%, but it's $240 million right there.
But that's the point I'm trying to make, that this is essentially venture capital because they're not fully looking at the end game. Venture capital is the long game. So they don't care where the money ends up right when they put it in. They care more about where it eventually ends up. And that's the end game that makes billions of dollars when they exit.
Definitely. Again, that's just still $2.4 billion per the UC investments to the Big Ten, more than likely. Nick, more WNBA BS, but on a recent episode of the Post Moves podcast, WNBA legend and 3-time champ Candace Parker, coasting alongside Fever star Aaliyah Boston, offered a very rare public comparison of both of her relationships professionally with NBA Commissioner Adam Silver and WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. Candace Parker's commentary, widely dissected by the media and players, reportedly highlighted the differences in the accessibility of the commissioners, the transparency, and even engagements with player concerns. The high-profile comparison from a respected WNBA voice further validates the WNBPA's complaints regarding the lack of trust and effective communication between the league offices and their athletes, complicating the already difficult CBA talks. So, Nick, does Candace Parker's public comparison of Adam Silver and Kathy Engelbert confirm that there is a core problem regarding the WNBA, that it's less about revenue and more about a fundamental lack of trust in the current league leadership? I think the answer is yes, yes, yes.
I mean, yeah. We talked about this. We talked about a lot of things last night. This one we talked about for a while. Everyone has more confidence in Adam Silver than they do in Kathy Engelbert. That I think that's the first statement we need to make. Think about the text messages: Nafisa Collier, Candace Parker, Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu. Again, being able to name all the names, and they care more about Adam Silver than they do about Kathy Engelbert, because Kathy Engelbert doesn't care about them. So, yes, there is a core problem with the WNBA. And that's why Adam Silver has had to step in multiple times with quotes saying a CBA deal will eventually get done, whether you like it or not. But
he also said that things have gotten way too personal for his liking between the players and the commissioner's office as well.
Okay, but it's bad when your counterpart has to step in. Now, the NBA assumes a lot of responsibility for the WNBA, but it's also bad that the NBA commissioner has to step in because you're incompetent and can't do your own job as the commissioner of the WNBA.
I mean, I think, Nick, hearing it firsthand, though, now, a former player saying this is one thing, Nick, because they won't get fined for saying this. If this was, and again, we heard, though, from Nafisa Collier, obviously. I believe there may have been one other, yes. Fee even said that she never once got a text from Kathy about, the birth of her child or, about being injured. And that was, the thing that you were kind of, that you kind of were wondering about. Why would she rope her husband into this, discussing about Unrivaled stuff, where Alex has reached out to players that play in Unrivaled about injuries or winning championships or whatever. And the commissioner is in the commissioner's office, doesn't really have the persona or the personality even, or the goddamn common decency to reach out to people after they do have a season-ending injury is one thing. I, Nick, wonder, though, more importantly about this whole thing is I think that Candace is right. The core problem is not about the revenue, though it might be, but there's a fundamental lack of trust. I think, Nick, if there wasn't such a big problem with the officials and how they ref games, again, we heard, Nate Tibbetts, again, got thrown out of a finals game just last week. It was the first time ever that a league or the finals had a coach get tossed out of a game in the WNBA finals. If there wasn't such a lack of trust in current leadership to fix the problems and take the feedback from players, Nick, I don't think we'd be in this position, to be very frank, though. But also, more importantly, when Adam Silver is saying that, hey, things are getting way too personal, things are getting a little bit not to my liking with where, we've gone to personal attacks and voicing our displeasure about certain things, that's one thing. But also that it does show, though, that there is disconnect here. And I think that the disconnect has only gotten worse, though, post what Kathy said about Fee at the address before game one. Again, as we said last week, she goes from praising Fee as one of the best players in the league, though, respecting her. Oh, by the way, she's a damn liar because I never said these things to her at Unrivaled or at the All-Star Weekend in Indiana. Come on now.
It's kind of like a bad version of bipolar in a sense where, yes. Oh, I'm happy. We made it to the WNBA final, blah, 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 blah. Oh, but I'm going to blame Nafisa because she never said any of that stuff. Like, pick a lane, number one. Either she said it or she didn't say it. Well, she didn't say that stuff. Oh, but we'll work with the players with the task force, which, by the way, is the dumbest fucking bullshit of all time because we all know it's never going to happen.
No, don't worry. We'll get to that here in about a minute.
But I don't know, man. Like, it's bad when the women players are more connected to the NBA commissioner than they are the WNBA commissioner. I mean, come on, like, get with the picture because she's going to get fired. the owners are going to have, like, usually the owners are on the commissioner side in most sports.
I think now that with, as I have long said, with how united, vocal, borderline outspoken that the Players Association has been since Fee made those comments after their loss in Game 5. Now, again, I know people could say, well, would she have said this if they would have won and gone to the finals? I still think, Nick, that this would have come out in some way, shape, form, or size because the players are so damn fed up, as we heard from our go-to girl, Sophie Cunningham, that the commissioner needs to butt out and stop ruining the game because people don't go to watch the refs and they don't go to hear the commissioner speak after Game 5 concludes or Game 7 concludes when the title gets handed out.
Last time I checked, no one wanted to see the Ref Show podcast. Last time I checked, like no one is there to see the refs. I mean, like, so they blew the whistle too many damn times during the WNBA finals.
Especially Game 4, though, where again, Nick, as we said, Nate Tibbetts gets ejected. We did not see him get teed up the first time. We just saw the very much Joe West Wuss style. Hey, you're gone. Tech, that was it. We had the backside angle later in the game.
Oh, good on ESPN, by the way, for showing it.
Yeah, and they actually had the backside feed though of the first Tech. Let him come and say his piece. Okay, you called me a bad. I'm offended by you calling me a bad name. So you're gone. Tech, get him out of here. Kalia Copper got teed up. DeWanna Bonner got teed up as this game goes on because the whistle blew every 30 seconds. And I mean, if you barely look at the ref the wrong way, you're getting teed up.
Well, that's not just the WNBA. The NBA has that issue too, but the WNBA has it worse.
I think it's more magnified though in the W because it becomes headlines.
Agreed, because at least in the NBA, like even though you get some shit from WNBA refs, like there's a little more reprimand that goes down in the NBA when a ref does a wrong thing. Again, you're going to hear me say this a million times. Like when they put out the L2M report after the game, which is the most useless report in professional sports. Oh, well, sorry, we missed the call, which would have changed the game. Well, what does that do for you after the game? It does nothing. Or like when the pool reporters interview the head ref after like a major thing happened.
As they did, they interviewed Roy Goldbein after the game where he was asked about the Tibbetts double tech and the ejection.
I don't remember what he said. Do you remember what he said or no?
I forget. And then they also asked about the techs on Copper and Bonner when the game was already out of reach. Obviously, Kalia made her thoughts known to Holly Rowe that the referees had sucked all game during the ESPN interview. She had to literally bite her tongue for about 15, 20, 30 seconds at one point.
I remember that. I mean, the thing is, WNBA refs are not held accountable at all. And they get trained in the same system as the NBA officials.
Which is just mind-boggling to think.
So, I don't know how you fix this, but this is a massive problem. All right.
It is.
Tell the people about Novik. I got to go do something for a second, but tell them about Nova.
Yeah, with that in mind, everybody, if you're looking for better odds, Novik has you covered. With Novik, you always get better prices than traditional sports books, and you can even set your own odds to the actual market. It is the only free exchange, which means you get to keep every single dollar, penny, quarter, and nickel you win. If you sign up now with the promo code ETB Network, and you get 1,000 Novik coins and $5 in Novik cash, and you can also unlock other great bonuses, including spending $5 and getting $50 as well to begin play with as well. Again, you can find them on your app store or go to novik.us for more information and to get yourself started. Again, we have ourselves our Press Row parlay for the tonight's TNF game between the Steelers and the Bengals today from Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio, with kickoff at 5:20 on Amazon Prime Video. Just waiting for Novik to reload itself here and open up. But again, take advantage, folks, if you can. There are plenty of single game boost you can also use, including a 25% TNF SGP boost, a 25% NLCS boost, and a 15% NHL parlay boost as well, including a 25% ALCS SGP boost as well. So again, Novig, Novig.us, or find the app in your app store for free. Download again, use that promo code ETB Network to score a spend 5, get 50 back. And again, please play responsibly.
All right. On to the next story. Oh, more.
Speaking of the aforementioned task force there, Mr. Morganson.
Great. So, following the WNBA Finals, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert publicly announced the impending creation of a task force dedicated to improving officiating standards and training. However, FOS, Front Office Sports, subsequently reported that multiple coaches and general managers from around the league stated that they have not received any official communication or request for input regarding the proposed task force. The lack of outreach to the key personnel most directly affected by officiating shortcomings cast doubt on the sincerity and the seriousness of the league's announcement, suggesting a significant lapse in internal coordination and stakeholder management. If the WNBA is announcing a task force without consulting the coaches and the GMs, is the league prioritizing public relations over actually solving a fundamental competitive issue? Yes. Go ahead.
I mean, Nick, we sat through, we dissected every word that Kathy Engelbert muttered before game one of the finals here, I think, on both Press Row that week and the Code Red episode that evening after the big news broke of the relationship is officially dead and gone. The hatchet has not been buried. The ship is down the river and sinking between Collier and the commissioner's office.
Yeah.
You might recall, Nick, I made that weird comparison that the task force sounds like it's a HOA at a mobile home park or at a condominium complex, not to solve the problem of a sports entity like the WNBA has right now. And Nick, I think it is a PR scheme to save Kathy Engelbert's behind for where, in fact, as we have been saying and beating this dead horse for the past, I'd say, 4 weeks, this was a PR spin to keep her looking good. But more importantly, Nick, once again, to basically say, we will not take input from the players. We will go behind their back, not consult coaches, not consult the board, not consult GMs and team presidents to actually make these matters work in everyone's favor, where we're all about ourselves, not about the whole league entity as a whole.
This just goes from bad to worse. She lied. Let's just admit she lied, because she says things and they sound good, but she can't follow them through to actually make them happen.
I respect Nafisa Collier, great player. Obviously, I respect her. 3 minutes later, she's a damn liar.
That's the problem. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. As I know that's cliche and I say it a million times, but like, that's what this situation is. She wants the cake and eat it too. Like, you can't. You either need to work with the players or say F you to the players, and then you're going to cause a war, which is what she's doing.
We're already at.
You've already caused a war. Like, we're not just in World War III. We're like in World War X right now, where this is. Like,
it's DEFCON 1.
This is the point of no return. Like, if you had, in that story we talked up above, if you started this original negotiating process by saying, we'll raise it to $850,000 and we'll make the veteran minimum $300,000, you might have actually caught the players' ears if you did this from the very beginning. Now that we're so far down the pike because you've caused so many problems, that $850,000 looks like a nothing burger because, again, the players are only getting 9% of the league-wide revenue. So who cares how much the salary is? Because in the long run, it's not making them any money.
Yeah. Is it fair to say, Nick, before we move on to our last story for hour 2, that I really hope that this is the case? Kathy Engelbert's days as commissioner are now numbered.
Let's see. How's the way I really want to answer it?
And I hate to say that her days are numbered, Nick, because away from what's going on right now, this is the first time that we've actually seen like rapid expansion of the league from 12 teams to eventually to 16. The media right deal that they co-signed with the NBA and stuff like that. But still, the days feel like they're numbered, not just for Kathy Engelbert, Nick, but we're numbered, though. We're 15 days away from the lockout officially beginning on Halloween.
I'm going to tell you right now, with all the things that they've done, so they're going to have, 4 expansion teams coming, I think?
Within the next 5 years.
And then the deal they just signed with USA Network.
The 50 games on USA, yes.
By the way, there's a lot of games. And they got Kate Scott, who is going to be great. By the way, it's not an Ion BS deal where they're just going to take feeds. They are literally putting together, for the first time for the WNBA, they're putting broadcast teams together and actually treating it like a real sport. Sorry, Ion, but that's just what I think of your coverage. It's just anyone can take a feed and put it on a network. It's what I used to do in radio all the time. We have to carry a network show and put it on a feed. It's really not that hard. But all this good karma you built up, all this positive momentum you built up, if the league goes into a lockout, if I'm the owners, they should shove her ass to the curb as soon as the lockout gets announced, because she could have stopped this. She could have stopped this situation before it ever happened if she just listened to the players and said, this is what we want. I'm not saying you have to give them everything they want, because that's not how life works, because that's wah. I'm a 4-year-old kid who thinks they deserve the world, and that's not what – I'm not saying that should be the case, but you got to be fair a little bit and come to the negotiating table and realize that both sides need to benefit from a deal for this to work. Not just the commissioner's office and the owners, but the players have to benefit. And right now they're not benefiting enough for them to play games.
Yeah, I mean, I think her days are numbered. The fact that coaches and team GMs from the league have said that they have not even received any official communication or even getting asked for input on the task force. Again, Nick, it's just another instance, though, of this league, despite all the good publicity, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all them playing games. This is another instance, though, of the league repeating old habits and shooting themselves in the foot repetitively over and over again.
Look at the Aces. Again, 3 titles in 4 years. That's amazing. Asia Wilson has been amazing. Like, you're going to let all that go to waste now because you're greedy about not giving the players the money they deserve for revenue that's coming into the league? Kathy, explain that one to me, because I'm telling you, that's the one interview I want on this show, because if she thinks she's going to come in here and land on a pillow, it's just not going to happen. Like, and of course, she'll probably run away from the interview if she ever came on here, because she wouldn't be able to handle all the tough questions whatsoever. Why are you treating the players this way? Why did you contradict yourself on the Nafisa Collier stuff? Why are you now first coming to the table with a raise when you should have done that a long time ago? There's a lot of questions.
There is, Nick, and again, I'm very much
numb.
I mean, for the fact, again, I'll use the old, the free space on the bingo card to say, hey, WNBA fan since 2008, 5-year podcaster, interviewed Candace Parker and Candace Wiggins, have gone to numerous games in LA and Phoenix and Vegas and the All-Star game in 2018. I've met so many great people in the league, from friends of mine who I, went to Minnesota with for the All-Star game, and people I still talk to, and players, and, all that sort of stuff, though. And, having kind of been, at the forefront and front line for this league and for these athletes and players, and, all the, stuff I've gotten in the time since I began becoming became a fan in 2008 up until now. And obviously now with social media, everybody's got an opinion about the sport, whether you know it or not, which is one thing. And it's one thing now, Nick, that the league is finally in like a good place now where they're getting publicity in some way, but it's still, though, Nick, is just the same exact circus though that I've been seeing though since 2008, where it's it's the same mistakes being made. The players' input is going nowhere. To use words from Nafisa Collier, tone deaf leadership has been the hallmark of this league that I have seen since 2008. Now, Donna Oringer I thought was great. Laurel Richie was decent. Lisa Borders, okay, whatever. Kathy initially, I wanted to give her a chance, and I did. And then, again, like I said, though, seeing how the league has gone, though, because of Caitlin and Angel, Paige, you name it, the Liberty winning, the Liberty winning the first major title along with Gotham FC for New York sports since the Yankees in 09. Huge. But now here we are, though, Nick, again, where the same crap is in the water lines of the WNBA once more, and the water is again contaminated again by another incompetent, self-centered commissioner's office with this league.
Well, I'm going to hold off further on this topic because we're going to go into hour 3, but let's put it this way. I'll leave it at this. We will have a show one way or the other.
Yes.
On the 31st. Probably right around, we don't know the official deadline. I tried looking it up. But I'm assuming it's probably going to be midnight that night.
Which would be 9 o'clock Pacific time on the 31st.
So we'll be there one way or the other. And we're going to try and effort some WNBA people because I would like to try and get some WNBA people to talk about this stuff because there's a lot more to this that we don't know. But we'll talk about it. All right, let's do one more quick story that's left over from hour 2. The Ryan Russillo Spotify podcast feed war. Longtime sports personality Ryan Russillo is reportedly entering a conflict with Spotify over the future control and monetization of his podcast feed and back catalog following the end of his deal with The Ringer. This feed war illustrates a critical, emerging legal and business battleground in the podcast industry, the ownership of intellectual property, and the distribution control of major personalities. Spotify, as the platform owner, wants to maintain control, while the creator, Russillo, wants to secure the valuable audience and content he built to take it elsewhere. Who ultimately has the greater claim to ownership over a creator's back catalog and podcast feed? The platform that paid for exclusivity or the creator who generated the content and the audience?
Gotta be the creator.
This is fascinating. This is not the first time I've seen this either. But there's a lot of issues with this. Number one, why would you keep a feed of someone's show when they don't work for you anymore? That's the first question I would ask. Number two, and I said this to you last night, was people do some pretty shitty things, these corporate companies. So they'll take that feed and they'll turn it over and put a different show on it to make it look like that show has that audience base.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that that was classless, in my opinion. Give the person their feed. What are you going to do with it? Seriously.
Yeah, this, Nick, feels like a thing of holding something or someone hostage.
Yeah.
When it boils down to this sort of thing. No, I mean, for the question, it's easily who ultimately has the greater claim to ownership over a creator's backlog and podcast feed. It's the person creating the content who generates the content, pumps it out, and then maintains the audience. I mean, case closed, it feels like.
So I'll give you one small scenario, maybe where that is not the case. So say it's like The Ringer, which we just talked about. So like they have all their shows going to Netflix, all that stuff. So they have the Ringer NFL show, the Ringer NBA show, MLB show. That would be the one circumstance where if it's more of a league show or something that is hosted by many people, you're obviously not going to be able to take that with you because one, it has their name on it and it has a name of a league on it. So you're just not going to be able to take that stuff with you. This scenario, his name is on the show. I don't understand why Spotify is holding a feed hostage in this scenario. Barstool did this many times where they had a feed. I think it was Jared Carrabis' show, ironically enough, because he did Section 10.
Your boy.
And because he went to a competitor gambling company to do content, they refused to give him his feed. So I guess from that standpoint, I get that partially because they don't want to give it to a competitor. But what are you doing with the Section 10 feed? You're not doing that show anymore.
No. So why would you hang on to the content when it's not even your content anymore?
Well, it was done under the banner for a while. But what are you doing with it now? You're just doing it to hold the feed, like so that they can't do it? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So Russillo had to create a whole new YouTube feed, whole new Spotify and Apple feed and all the feeds again.
So essentially all the hard work that he put in kind of went to waste.
I don't know if I would say it went to waste, but you had to start a new feed.
Starting from square one again.
Essentially. Now, what's much easier today than like when you had to do radio and if you had to go to a new place, that was much harder to regarner an audience. He's such a big name on social media. And I'm going to look this up just to make sure I have the information correct. Okay. He's got 580,000 followers on Twitter.
Damn.
So I think he will be fine. Just saying. He's a big name. He worked at ESPN. Then he went to Spotify. Now he's Barstool. He will be fine. All he has to do is get the message out and people will find his feed. They already have. They've already found the YouTube channel. And I'm gonna prove that number to you too. Let me look because I want to make sure I get this number correctly here. Here. Okay. Oh, is this the Spotify one? I don't know if this is the Spotify one or the... Hold on. The point is, he had to restart from scratch, but I think he will be able to rebuild it. That's the main point I'm getting at. I think I saw he was already at like 8,000 subs on YouTube already. It's only been up for one day. So I'm not too worried about that. I think he will rebuild, and I think he will have more viability to do more things because Spotify is a little corporate.
Yeah.
To be quite honest. So we'll see what happens there, but I don't know. What do you think about that whole thing?
I mean, I'm just more of the belief though that ownership claiming for a back catalog and podcast feed should go to the person, the creators like of our entity on Press Row, or Nick D or D-Mart with Moving the Goalpost, you and Zan with ETV Sports. If that goes to a different outlet, you should be able to still maintain ownership of your feeds and of your the content that you help generate, all the hard work that goes into making it, as we have obviously done with what you and I do in the wee hours of the late nights in the early morning about getting content put out there. All that work is ours and ours alone, nobody else's.
Correct. That's the whole world of this space. You have the ability to control the content. You do. And when you work for corporate, it's a lot harder. it's a lot harder to do things because they control your work. That's why the podcast industry has grown so much. That's why we're working hard to grow our network, because we can control that content in
Right.
that way. So,
And with as many ideas as we're sprouting up, though, coming soon to, on here, on YouTube, on our podcast channels, though, with the audio form shows that we are working on, with another idea that's coming back from the early days of ATB from 4 years ago, Nick. All that, deserves to be within our realm and nobody else's realm.
right. And that's why they make copyright claims and all that stuff. That's why YouTube is sometimes stricter than ever. You don't see us using music from professional places, like, because there's many rules about that stuff. So this is dumb. Spotify making a dumb choice. Just give him his damn feed. For crying out. Look what happened to Call Her Daddy with Barstool, where they originally, he was not willing to let the feed go. Then he finally just said, all right, I got to let the feed go because I look like an asshole. Like if Portnoy basically said, if I just don't let it go, fine, I'll give it to them. And that's what they did. And that made him look better in the long run, because he just said, all right, I'm giving them the feed, let them do what they want. I can't do anything with it. And essentially that's what it is. But I think he's going to do way better at Barstool. There's more creativity balance at Barstool. Spotify's way more corporate. Also, Bill Simmons is a little bit of a hothead, too. So, it is what it is. All right. Let's move into hour 3. And this is a story we've talked about a little bit on and off. The NBA returns to China after 6 years. The NBA has resumed playing preseason games in China, officially ending a 6-year hiatus that began after a controversial tweet by Daryl Morey regarding Hong Kong protesters led to a major diplomatic and economic crisis for the league. This decision signals a competitive thawing of relations and the league's calculated prioritization of the vast multi-billion-dollar Chinese market. The return is a tacit acknowledgement that for American sports leagues, the global economic interests of their brand must take precedence over engaging in public political discourse on international issues. Now that the NBA has essentially returned to business as usual with China, does this set a clear, financially driven precedent for how all major U.S. sports leagues will handle future geopolitical controversies?
Yeah, how about you keep your nose out of it and you won't lose a whole market and lose all the revenue?
Well, Daryl Morey just did the dumbest thing of all time. And that led to one of the sounds I have on the soundboard from James Harden. Daryl Morey is a liar. Well, yeah, Daryl Morey was not exactly the brightest bulb in the box at that point in time.
No.
I think he's now the Sixers GM, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. I don't like him. They need China. China's a huge global basketball market. Huge. Same thing for baseball. Same thing. Like, if you don't have that market, biggest country in the world, I think besides India, I think has the most people watching sports. They had to. The NBA had to fix the relationship. If I remember correctly, the Chinese television markets basically like pulled them off when that incident happened. They had to do this.
Yeah, they had to, and I don't know what really was the remedy, unless somehow, if Nick, I don't know. I'm one who believes that Yao Ming probably had a few meetings. I know that Yao is the commissioner of the Chinese Basketball Association. He probably had, some meetings with Adam Silver about, hey, this is how you as a league can repair the damage done by what this gentleman said. It may take some time. Nick, I will even say this. This might be stupid as well. Why do I feel like Joe Tsai had something to do with this as well in some way, shape, form, or size? I mean, I doubt it because he's from Taiwan, not necessarily from China. Taipei is a different thing. But he's got pull, he's got money, he's got leverage in some way, shape, form, or size. But you're right, though, Nick, that a league like the NBA, who I think probably, Nick, away from soccer, probably has the biggest international fan base because basketball has become such a global game for the last, I'd say, 30 to 40 years, if not longer. But mainly probably within the last several years, Nick, because of the Warriors winning quite often, the influx now of international talent like Nikola Jokic, Giannis, SGA, Joel Embiid, for example, that the game has gone more global and that global names now are becoming drafted and coming out of these like Luka coming out of FC Barcelona's basketball program over in Slovenia, I believe is where Slovenia or Slovakia, one of the two. But either way, though, Nick, that the game has gone global, and you can't have somebody within the confines of the league taking a pot shot for issues not involving the game of basketball, ruining things that were going right for the NBA, and then it led to a 6-year separation before they finally came back to the table.
Well, yeah, because what Daryl Morey did was disgraceful to the sport of basketball, also disgraceful to the people of China, for crying out loud. I mean, when you do something as dumb as that, you're going to cost your league money for what you've done. So it took them this long to finally say, hey, we'll forgive partially and we'll allow them to come back and do games. I also think China realized that they need it for their own fans.
Agreed.
Two major stories I think you'll be interested in. One just broke, actually, out of the WNBA. Nope, not lockout news. So this is from, and I can never say her last name right. Annie, how do you say her last name?
I think it's Costable.
Costable? Okay. So from Annie Costable, the WNBA All-Star Game is returning to Chicago next season.
Hooray.
I just found that interesting considering what's going on there right now.
On both sides, because of the turmoil with a certain player with that organization, a 34-loss season. Oh, by the way, there's the giant elephant in the room the size of a circus tent, that there is a lockout coming in 15 days.
So why would they be announcing? Okay, wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to play tinfoil hat for a second here. Why would they be announcing the All-Star Game for next season? Does that mean like there's some news possibly coming down the pike?
Or is it a thing I like to call false hope?
Oh, that's a good thought. I didn't even think of that either, but
I think it's more false hope that the league is
drumming up attention.
Let's put this announcement out so people can react to it when we don't do crap in 15 days and let the league lock out.
Do you think there's any percentage of this that maybe they're trying to hint at that there could be news coming? Any percentage?
2%.
Okay. Because it is kind of weird that they would drop that news now.
I mean, I still think you need to at least make announcements like this of when the draft will be, the lottery, which should be probably in December.
For the expansion stuff too?
I don't know. Yeah, for Portland and Toronto, which we'll talk about Portland a bit later in the show, for kind of the wrong reasons for them. I hate to say it, Nick, but I feel a lot like the 2020 and 22 baseball seasons. Like, you can put the schedule out, but I'm not going to get my hopes up for a season.
Agreed. I just thought it was awkward that they dropped the news just now about the All-Star Game in Chicago. In Chicago, of all places, where they're having all the problems. Another story I just wanted to point out, too. I was going to point this out before, and I forgot. So Pablo Torre, who's been on his game investigating things.
Oh, baby.
So he's been back and forth with Mark Cuban the past couple of weeks. This has nothing to do with that. This is another unique story, and it has to do with Mr. Belichick and UNC and some stuff going on there.
Ooh.
So he wrote, on tomorrow's Pablo Torres Find Out, multiple sources tell me that UNC general manager Mike Lombardi left the team in August, 2 weeks before the season opener, to fundraise in Saudi Arabia.
And then didn't I hear you and Zan saying that Belichick somehow took a week of vacation time
Yes.
before the year started?
No, it was the off week.
Or the off week off?
Yeah.
Literally the off week
Yes.
off?
Which he would have crucified anybody in the NFL if they did that. But what do you make of that? Fundraising in Saudi Arabia for college football?
I don't see how that regime's going to last.
But wait a minute. Why are you fundraising in Saudi Arabia? Am I missing something? Like usually you and I are pretty succinct and like on stories.
Yeah.
This one makes no sense.
I don't know how to feel about it, honestly. I really don't. I just don't quite understand. This story comes out. Nick, is it in a way, is it a thing maybe to try to cover up that something is going to happen, that Belichick is going to be removed from his position?
Well, that's coming from Michael Lombardi, who's the de facto what they call GM now of all these college sports teams. I don't know what it is for what it's worth, but you're going to grab dirty money in Saudi Arabia. That's how desperate you are to make your team better.
Anything to get the attention off of Bill and his babe and how the season's gone so far for UNC. And there's a very high chance that that whole entire regime is gone in a few weeks.
I'm surprised they didn't do it in the off week, to be honest. That would have been the time to do it. No?
Yeah, I think so. Not now.
But I just found that odd. But the other one, the WNBA All-Star Game being in Chicago, making announcements, not even know if we're going to have a season.
Again, I get that you have to at least put that out there, but that you have to still plan for the season to happen, even though that we're very much 90.
They're far apart.
Yeah, we're 99% sure that there's going to be a lockout in 15 days.
And I think you and I agreed that it's not a situation of, oh, we'll miss a few games. We think it's either going to be there is a season or there's no season, right?
I'm of the belief that there's no season.
Which would suck because there's a lot of great players. So now, I guess the other question, I didn't even think about this when we were doing the WNBA topic. What happens to the draft with the women that are at the top of the game?
Everything would be, I think, full stop. Media right deal, the draft lottery, free agency, all that stalls until the lockout's resolved.
Because I don't know
That's
why.
what I think happened, Nick, with the NFL and the NBA lockouts a few years ago, too.
I don't know why I'm forgetting her name at the moment. Oh, Juju Watkins. Well, so she wouldn't be able to get drafted, would she?
She already signed to play in Unrivaled, though.
Did she sign with Unrivaled? I think she signed an NIL deal with Unrivaled.
Yeah.
So I don't, because she's still in college, technically at USC.
Yeah.
But
and she's not playing at all next year, by the way, because of the ACL injury she suffered last season.
Oh, she's not playing at all?
Yep.
I thought that was just an off-season injury. She's not playing?
No, she is out for the whole year again this year.
If she wasn't hurt, she possibly could have been drafted this past.
I think so.
Talk about someone who's got major appeal.
Everyone loves Juju.
Let's see. Christy said if the WNBA lockout doesn't get resolved, Chicago will not be. Yeah, well, yeah. All operations would stop if a lockout.
Well, all operations come to a full stop on Halloween Day.
Talk about the spookiest days. I want to know if they planned that out purposely.
That's going to be a long day for me with work, and then following that story for the Code Red podcast press row episode.
What actual day is the 31st? Oh, it's a Friday.
It's a Friday.
Oh my God! And there could be NBA. Oh shit! Oh my God! This is gonna be such a long day, and I have forecast that day too. Oh, we're
Oh man, I mean, either way, I mean, who really knows? We'll see what happens here.
hey, don't.
Nick, let's get.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just gonna say one more thing. Don't say we don't do this for the love of doing this. I'm just gonna say that right now because you and I put in more time on playback than anybody else here. Go ahead.
Do it for our viewers. We love you guys, whether or not you guys like our thoughts or not. That's why we're here. That's what makes sports so beautiful,
Yes.
and why the other side of the world, which starts with the letter P, is not something that we're interested in because we love everyone here. Good takes, bad takes. You love us, you hate us, whatever it is. That's why we're here, and because we love sports and we love doing what we do.
And we're not afraid of
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, exactly. Unlike
some other people.
despite massive success, Nick, of the exclusive Christmas Day doubleheader, and securing 2 more potentially great games this upcoming Christmas Day, Netflix has publicly again reassured that pursuing a larger deal or package of NFL rights does not really fit their strategy, indicating the streamer is reluctant to pay the astronomical price tag required for a full season package, which could run into tens of billions of dollars. Rather, Netflix is prioritizing the use of event-based programming to drive short-term subscription spikes and reduce the churn, rather than fundamentally shifting its business model to becoming a primary live sports network. So, Nick, is Netflix being smart or strategic in avoiding the massive cost of a full-season NFL package, or are they making a short-sighted mistake by not capitalizing on the live sports momentum they've successfully made? I'm there for movies and for some of their documentaries, but I don't care to watch a full season of NFL football in general, let alone on Netflix.
This goes back to part of what we were saying before, where Netflix is really not a live sports platform. Like, it's not built that way. I said, look what happened to Paul Tyson. They completely effed it up with they don't know how to do it.
One quick update for the WNBA All-Star Game. It will not be held, by the way, at Wintrust Arena. United Center, where the Bulls and Blackhawks play, will host the All-Star Game next season.
Well, that's a no-brainer, so they get more fans in. That makes total sense. If it happens. But Netflix is really not built for live sports. It's not. Like I said, I watched a little bit of the Christmas doubleheader just to see. It's a football game. Like, they didn't do, like, everyone thought that Netflix was going to do like this extraordinary.
It was a regular game,
right,
to take people away from watching 5 NBA games on Christmas Day, which has been the NBA's bread and butter since the 40s.
Yeah, and now the NFL is trying to destroy that too. Because the NFL likes to destroy everybody in its path.
You're not telling me anything new.
But is it a strategic move to avoid massive? No, it costs. It actually is adding more costs.
Yeah,
if they want the NFL, like you said, it's tens of billions of dollars to make it. Look at the Amazon deal. It was like 11 years, 11 billion. They're paying $1 billion a year. Like, the NFL is expensive. And think of, not to add this platform into the mix, but look how long it took for them to get any NFL on here. They probably had to come to some insanely strategic deal to get Red Zone on here. I don't know how they did it, but they did. But that's probably the reason why they don't have why Playback doesn't have Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, the Thursday Amazon, because the NFL covets its own IP.
They do.
Because it's so expensive and it's valuable. But is Netflix being strategic in avoiding the massive No, they're not. Because it's expensive. Or are they making a short-sighted mistake? But not. I think both answers are no, actually, in this scenario. Because again, they're not avoiding the massive cost. The NFL is expensive. And are they making a short-sighted mistake? No, because the NFL is a very risky product, even though it's expensive. And you don't know if people are going to come to Netflix to watch. It's a digital platform.
Yeah, and that's why I think that it's a smart thing that Netflix only has Christmas Day and not like a full-fledged package, because that's one day out of the year, Nick, not 17 straight weeks where you have to go to Netflix to watch football.
Correct. And like Amazon's the same way for
TNF.
TNF, or like when they have the Black Friday game.
Yeah, Black Friday.
You're more apt to go watch those things because they're one-off things. In a sense, in that way. You're not going to go to Amazon to sit and watch 50,000 games and you can't flip. NFL Red Zone is built perfectly because it flips through all the games. Of course, my dad all the time as a joke says, "Oh, it's the ADD channel." And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And
That's too funny.
but it is, if you think about it, it is because you're not really sitting still as you're watching games. But you know what? It is what it is. But I think the answer is no to both.
I think so too. Nick, over in boxing, following his high-profile exit from First Take and his morning show at ESPN, veteran commentator Max Kellerman is now making a major career move by becoming a key voice for Zuffa Boxing, the new promotion formed in partnership with TKO, who also owns UFC and WWE, and of course, Saudi Arabia-based interest. Zuffa recently scored a 5-year deal with Paramount Plus, meaning that, or Paramount in general, meaning that Kellerman will become a major fixture for Paramount Plus and CBS, validating Kellerman's specialized knowledge in combat sports, mainly boxing, and places him at the forefront of a heavily funded venture aimed at disrupting the traditional boxing landscape. So, Nick, does the prominent role now for Kellerman in Zuffa Boxing on Paramount signal a validation of his expertise outside of ESPN's general debate format, or a symptom of boxing's media structure favoring experienced voices like his?
Okay, this is a situation where I think both answers are correct. Yes. Does Max Kellerman's prominent role in Zuffa Boxing on Paramount signal a validation of his specialized expertise? The one thing you and I were discussing, Callan, was the word validation. And I don't know if this has anything really to do with validation. I think this has to do more with his expertise in boxing. He knows boxing better than most people do when it comes to the sport. So I wouldn't call it validation. I would call it expertise and knowledge of boxing. So I wouldn't say it signals validation. I would say just it's his specialized expertise of boxing and combat sports that makes him better. I do agree that he does have expertise outside of ESPN's general debate format. Is it a symptom of boxing's media structure favoring? Yeah, that one I agree with too. I think like I said, he's been a voice in boxing forever. He did it for HBO. He's done it for ESPN. He did Max on Boxing. He went to all the live coverage when they would carry the big boxing matches. But I definitely would not say validation. I think that's the wrong word.
Yeah, I'm of the belief, Nick, that validation's more of a thing of like, how would you phrase validation though in sports media? Where is it a thing where someone, reaches a milestone of like 30 years of calling a certain sport on a platform? Is it, scoring a win over Stephen A. Smith on First Take when it comes to an argument that they got right and Stephen A. flopped on it? Like, I think that word, Nick, of validation is what I hear a lot from a former host of Snowrick for the last 5 years about, being right about, stupid hot takes of sports that they don't know about, or because they got one pick right out of having 50 different favorite teams because of the quarterback or the pitcher or whoever it is. Like, more importantly, what more does Max have to do to validate his career of what this guy has built from square one? Mainly, Nick, with, as you said, though, Kellerman made his money in bread and butter, not with the NFL or baseball or basketball. He made it, though, in a niche sport in a way, in a sport, though, that had their run, though, Nick, with Tyson, Holyfield, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, Ali, Andrew Galata, Riddick Bowe, you name all the big name heavyweight, Oscar De La Hoya, all those guys.
Agreed.
That's where, his validation is, Nick. He brought life, though, to a sport like boxing, coming out of its golden era of the Alis of the world and the Fraziers and Foremans of the world with new names. Him and Jim Lampley, Nick, they made HBO what they were when they had those fights. At one point in time, with Jim Lampley, when George Foreman worked with in Larry Merchant, those guys were around for so damn long. Then after some of them retired, then Kellerman got his niche though with Lampley on HBO, calling like a De La Hoya fight, for example, or a Mayweather fight, or whoever it may have been, Nick. But I think though that the word validation is not quite used correctly when we talk about stuff like this in sports, if you ask me.
No, I agree. And he deserves way more credit because Max, even though he knows boxing better than most, Max is superiorly talented, very smart.
Absolutely.
I think he went to an Ivy League college, if I'm not mistaken. He's one of the very few that was able to debate Stephen A. Oh, he went to Columbia.
Columbia, yeah.
Oh, so yeah, he definitely went to an Ivy League school. One of the smartest I've ever seen at ESPN, by the way. And to be honest, like, even though he was a co-host on First Take, he didn't let Stephen A get away with shit. Like, he held Stephen A to a different standard. And it took Stephen A being an executive producer to basically say, I don't like you, so I'm removing you because you're too smart, essentially. Like, think about that for a second. Stephen A controls everything on First Take. Everything. He's executive producer. He controls the people he wants on, so on and so forth. He basically had Max removed.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where Max is superiorly talented and smart. This is you're right. This is bread and butter. So obviously this makes total sense, but he could do other stuff, do many other things. He could go call any sport he want. He could do NFL. He could do MLB. He could do NBA. I think he could do it all. But this makes sense as at least a comeback to media that he does this first.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't quite get the validation part of this because I've heard that term used so loosely for 5 years regarding, picks and, I don't know, football and this and that and whatnot and all that other stuff. But
it's such a loose word, validation.
It very much is. I agree 100%. And I don't think that he has anything left to prove.
Because
Nick, though, kind of in on a sensitive topic here. And this obviously came out as the week has gone on. But both ESPN's late-night SportsCenter host Scott Van Pelt issued an on-air apology after himself and NFL analyst Ryan Clark received huge social media blowback for their initial reaction and commentary on the tragic story involving LSU football player Kyren Lacy, which again you had to bring me up to speed on last night. The apology was prompted by the widespread perception that their discussion was both insensitive and lacked full context regarding the complex and tragic circumstances of Lacy's case. This incident highlights the acute challenge for 24/7 sports media personalities to balance the need for immediate but also unscripted reaction with the required due diligence and empathy when covering sensitive personal or legal matters at hand. But Nick, as we said though, we're in the era though of to go back to Kellerman, we are in the era, Nick, of instant validation for unscripted commentary. But how can high-profile hosts like both Clark and SVP maintain authenticity, but also ensure that they meet the ethical standard for covering tragedy like this story with Kyren Lacy?
All right. I got to separate these two because they're two completely different people, even though it's in the same category, because they're two completely different people, personalities. Scott Van Pelt did the right thing and came out and apologized, saying, I didn't do enough research. I didn't do enough to validate the information. And he owned it on his SportsCenter. Completely owned it. Ryan Clark, this is not his first rodeo. Crossing into the controversial. And, of course, they shoved him on First Take to do the apology, because why wouldn't they? and he claims that he was friends with Kyron Lacey. It was a whole mess. Like, Scott completely owned it and said, I need to do better, which is all you could ask for
Yeah.
in that regard, that he owned up to not doing enough research and viability look into stuff. The one thing I will say about the SVP thing, it's Sports Center. Even though it's a more personalized Sports Center because it's his show that they turned it into.
Yeah.
But is Sports Center supposed to be commentary driven?
No.
And I feel like sometimes you'll hear him do the one big thing was left over from SVP and Russillo. So he brought over the one big thing. That's commentary based. That's more radio based than it is for TV. But ESPN is more focused on personality based driven shows. Look at Pat McAfee. Look at Stephen A. Smith. Look at Mike Greenberg on Get Up. Look at Josh Pate coming over to ESPN from On3 doing college football. Paul
Peter
Feinbaum
Schrager coming over.
Peter Schrager, Paul Feinbaum doing SEC coverage, even though he's a big pain in the ass. But I think SVP has a little more respect for people than some of those other people do at times. Ryan Clark, I just don't forgive, period, because him getting into hot water and controversial topics, that's his MO. He gets into that constantly. So I have no sympathy for Ryan Clark whatsoever.
Nick, we sat here on Press Row a few weeks ago and dissected Ryan Clark wanting to jump the table on Get Up and tackle Peter Schrager and beat him up, basically, because it was the whole stupid, hey, I played professional football. What have you done in your life, basically? Like, that's the thing I hate most. Now, I may be that way a little bit because I played baseball, I played hockey. I don't pump my chest out and flex on you, for example, because you were a tennis player. I played team sports. I didn't play as an individual in an individual sport where I played, the team game. And we talked about that last night, though, where this is an effort of a team with ETB, and we are very much ones to deflect the attention from us. And hey, this is a full team effort to get where we're at right now. And you said that right, though, that Ryan Clark this is not strike one. He's had the Schrager incident. Him and RG3 have had massive falling outs, though, when it's come to Angel Reese in the WNBA, for example.
He ended up leaving.
And he won't leave. More importantly, he doesn't leave it alone. He keeps going back and keeps poking the bear, hoping
On
he's
Twitter.
not going to get mauled to death.
Yeah, on Twitter, constantly. He's poking the bear. RG3 left ESPN to go to Fox. I mean, now, that might have been for a better deal, but at the same time, he probably didn't like the fact that his wife was getting attacked by Ryan Clark.
So yeah,
what?
You're right, though. This is not Ryan Clark's first thing or first incident. Again,
First,
Schrager,
yeah.
the RG3 beef. This is already strike three now with what he said, though, with SVP. Like, I hate to say it, though, Nick, but how many more chances can you give somebody in the media space to not be a dumbass?
All right. I'm going to give you the unfortunate answer, which in media, why people get so many chances, and I'm sure you already know what the answer is going to be. What does Ryan Clark do better than most because of his social media and things he said?
Yeah, that's true.
What a certain somebody who used to be here was too focused on.
All about the views.
And what is ESPN focused on?
The views and clicks.
Ryan Clark generates more clicks and more views than most people at the network at ESPN. Why do you think Stephen A. Smith is so highly touted by ESPN? Anything he says turns into hundreds or even millions of views. Why do you think Sirius brought him in for 2 radio shows? He makes views. Or he makes audio clips, sound bites. So, unfortunately, he could do this 10 more times. Unless it does physical harm or damage to somebody mentally, they're not going to remove him.
No.
Because views generate advertising revenue. And that's the toughest thing about today. We want to build things in a way where we can have our opinions. Are we a little hot take-ish from time to time? Yes, but that's not the MO.
And it's not full blown either every time that we open our mouths.
Are we going to have opinions from time to time that are a little louder than others? Yeah, but we're not doing that every single second of every single show that's on here. But if a topic calls for an opinion, we're going to say it from time to time. Like,
Exactly.
ESPN is hot take country now, where if you're going to put a Ryan Clark on, you're going to put a Pat McAfee on, Paul Feinbaum on. ESPN is almost like standing there saying, okay, what dumb thing is he going to say today so we can clip it and put it on 20 ESPN platforms today? That's what they do. They'll never admit that to you, but they want to make viral clips. It's all about viral today.
It is. Pretty much it is. Nick, to the NFL, we talked a bit about this, I think, off air. But certainly, though, there's been movement with the Cleveland Browns organization, literally and figuratively. They have officially announced their intentions to formalize a plan to relocate their stadium from downtown Cleveland, currently occupied at Huntington Bank Field, to move to suburban Brook Park, Ohio. However, though, to mitigate the backlash and aid the city's future plans for downtown, the Haslam Sports Group, or HSG, has agreed to pay the city $100 million and take on the cost of razing and demolishing the current stadium. The move follows an ongoing trend of NFL owners seeking more space for parking and development outside of dense urban cores, fundamentally altering the civic identity and economic potential of downtown Cleveland for the future. So, Nick, by agreeing to pay $100 million and cover the cost of demolition, had the Browns done enough in your mind to offset the undeniable cultural and economic loss of moving the franchise out of the urban center? Where, again, Nick, this goes to my Substack. This is not the Chargers leaving San Diego for Los Angeles. This is literally the Browns going to a suburb of Cleveland, not to a brand new city like the Chargers did in 2017.
I'll try to keep these brief just because we're on a schedule and the MMA Outsiders is coming on at 4:30. But this is not the same thing. I agree with you. This is not San Diego going to LA. Like, this is they literally did that to sell souls for billions of dollars. They just wanted a new stadium, and they also want a stadium that can be covered with the roof so that they can have the Final Four for March Madness, or they can do concerts and they can make more revenue. This is strictly a revenue play, and there's really not much else we can say about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, the Chicago Bears also, per FOS, have hit another speed bump with their Allegiant Stadium 2.0, basically. The renderings were just like Allegiant in Vegas.
That was hilarious, by the way. I'm like, hello, did someone just say, oh, I like this, let me take it too?
It's the whole thing of, hey, let me copy your Homer. Just let this. I'll change a few things to make it look like it wasn't obvious.
Just be careful, you might get an F and Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Browns obviously, Nick, have that, the tortured history of the franchise being moved by Art Modell. They came back as an expansion club in '99. They've gone through 40 quarterbacks in franchise history since they came back in '99. All the problems that they've had, man. And now this, obviously, with them wanting a new stadium yet again. Suburbs is one thing, but again, this is not Chargers going to, the Chargers going to LA or the Rams going from St. Louis, Missouri to LA. Not even close.
It's not close. This is just them wanting a new stadium so that they can have more events in it.
Nick, we thought the WNBA was bad about shooting themselves in the foot. Major League Soccer is now facing criticism after it was discovered that the league was using generative AI to write certain match recaps for the official MLS League website. The core issue at hand is that there is a disclosure message that writes that the content has not been reviewed by editorial staff, meaning that Major League Soccer is knowingly publishing potentially inaccurate or poorly written content to save money on human writers. The move is seen as an attack on human journalism and also a devaluing of the human narrative quality of the sport, but also the availability of cost-effective human labor. Nick, is MLS undermining its own credibility as a major league by prioritizing cost savings via unchecked AI over ensuring the quality and accuracy of its fundamental journalistic product? All I would say is, am I not surprised?
So you and I were discussing quite a few incidents this kind of reminded us of. One was the Daily News, which was bought by Trunk. That's the Tribune company that bought
The New York Daily News.
that also bought Los Angeles and Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
Also.
The Sun Times and the LA Times, yeah.
So it reminded me of that because Michael Kay did an incredible rant. I forgot, was it like 2018? I think 2017, 2018, when he was still doing Afternoon Drive for ESPN New York. Because there was a lot of prominent names fired by the Daily News.
Frank Iasola, John Harvey.
John Harper, who
John Harper, yeah.
Who has written New York baseball history for 25 years. Frank Isola, one of the best basketball writers in the country. I think he had like 15 to 20 years, the Daily News. Now, Frank Isola does the morning show for SiriusXM NBA radio. He does some coverage for the Yes Network in studio. He fills in on Around the Horn on ESPN. He's got plenty of gigs. John Harper was a writer. And like he makes appearances on the SNY's baseball show. But that was malarkey. Like, that, for people who didn't know, what Trunk did to the Daily News, they had like 30 people covering sports. They knocked it down to 9.
And they bought it for $1.
They bought it for $1 because there was so much debt on the Daily News. Now, they use, and I don't know if they probably still do it to this day, but they used something called wired services. Now, if you don't know what wired services is, it's basically they put the box score, they put how many hits, how many runs. This guy went 3 for 4 with a home run and a strikeout and an RBI. You're getting no news. No one's going to the clubhouse. Nobody. They didn't send them to spring training either. Think about that. Wire services to cover a team? That's how lazy you've gotten? You don't want to spend the money? And then we had the Yahoo Fantasy Sports story. Now, that one I think is worse. Don't get me wrong. The Daily News one is bad. But for Yahoo and for Fantasy Sports, what did I tell you the issue was with AI and fantasy sports information?
It's usually wrong.
Well, there's another issue I told you about last night, which was gambling. Because what is fantasy sports?
Gambling.
It's a form of gambling. Because most people don't do fantasy leagues for free. Most people don't. So you realize, and we know AI better than a lot of people do, AI is based on information that's found in databases, and it does its best based on current information to give you information. You really trust the fact that AI is going to give you accurate fantasy sports information?
Yes.
So that's the issue I have. The MLS one is a little different, and I'll try to wrap this up quickly, is it's okay if you get a name wrong here and there, it happens. You get a score or a stat wrong, it happens. You've told me stories about that. But getting fantasy information wrong where people could use it for gambling, no, can't do it. So this is bad. They shouldn't do it, but everyone's looking for shortcuts to get around paying people.
Yeah, I mean, and especially when MLS has the best thing going for soccer and Lionel Messi, and they're using AI for match recaps, that's not a good look. Nick, last story for the day before we get to press clippings is the ongoing consolidation of the audio and sports content world continues as major media entities like iHeartMedia and Fox have been listed as potential buyers for the podcast hosting and distribution platform Audio Boom. The potential acquisition underscores the massive continuing value of podcast technology, ad tech, and distribution networks. Major media companies are seeking to control the full vertical stack of content creation, hosting, in ad sales to dominate the growing spoken word and sports audio market. Does the interest from giants like Fox and iHeartMedia in acquiring platforms like Audio Boom prove that owning the distribution technology is now more critical than owning just the content by itself?
100,000%. It's all about distribution platforms now. Think about what we're setting up behind the scenes. Like, we use Acast, and you're able to connect your Spotify's and your iHeartRadios and your Apple and Amazon Music and all this stuff that you can send podcasting feeds to. So Audio Boom is huge. Now, I know more about Audio Boom than most people do because the syndicated show that I worked on, the John Batchelor show, he had to deal with Audio Boom for his podcast stuff. So we would cut all the segments up. It's a little different, though. He did everything as segments. Nothing. It was never an hour put up on Audio Boom. There's a lot more work, but unless it was a double segment, because sometimes people would be on for 2 segments, but we would keep each person's segment together. But it's a distribution platform. You can build descriptions, you can put pictures and all that stuff. Kind of the same as Acast. It's a little more expanded. They have the ability to do inserters for ads. We could technically do that on Acast, but you have to pay for it. But my point is, Audio Boom is actually an interesting platform, and that's why a lot of people are looking to acquire distribution.
They are.
It's not just content anymore.
Yeah, it's not. And we kind of talk about that a little bit with Ryan Russillo about, who actually gets to own the catalog and the feed. Is it the person putting the effort in to create it, or is it the people just putting it out, though? And where I went with, hey, the people who create the content get to keep it. This, though, Nick, is just another way, though, I think, where this is the new way that we're going now when it comes to, listening to audio at this rate.
I mean, if you think about it, this used to be fights over who owns radio feeds. If you remember back in the day.
Now it's a modern day version of that.
Now it's who owns a podcast feed, who owns their show, who owns their IP. I never thought we'd get this far into it, but we have. Like, you now have the ability more as a podcast to own your own entity than you did in radio, because radio was airspace,
Right.
like airtime. This is now you can own your own content and really run with it.
Exactly. Nick, we'll kind of speed through our press clippings here. We are against the clock here to get outsiders on the air here at the bottom of the hour. Nick, some postseason discipline was handed out by baseball as Padre infielders Jose Iglesias and Xander Bogaerts both received discipline, a 1-game suspension for Iglesias and a fine for Xander Bogaerts after their Game 3 wildcard round elimination for unprofessional conduct as the umpiring crew walked off the field down the steps of the visiting team tunnel and into the umpire's room after the botched called third strike that would have at least put Bogaerts on base with the Padres down by 2 runs in Game 3 in Chicago. Nick, the video did come out, though. I'm shocked there wasn't a bit more given out, though, for how Iglesias almost wanted to go over and punch the umpire's lights out, though. But at the end of the day, though, I know it's tough to lose a game in that fashion, but you got to be better than that, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good look. I think I told you when you first showed me the video, I was just like,
yeah, terrible look. Despicable.
It was a bad look. It didn't. First of all, I'm surprised he didn't get fined. Did he get fined or no?
I think they both got fined, but Iglesias got a 1-game suspension for almost making bodily contact with the umpiring crew.
Actually,
he had to be held back by multiple people.
Actually, I'll do this quickly because I just found it. So the video we're talking about here is this one. It's a little hard to see, but if you watch, they're walking into the dugout.
And then Iglesias walks over. Had no business even doing that, or even walking over. Look at that.
I mean, come on, man. Like, seriously? No, there's no room for that in sports. Like,
yeah, and I may be a Padre fan, but that behavior is absolutely reprehensible, and I'm glad they got their discipline because that's uncalled for. Yes, the umpire got the call wrong. That doesn't mean, though, you get to go and try to, tackle them after the game's over and put them through a table.
Well, this is one of the reasons why the ABS system is going to be around next year.
Yes.
Do I love the ABS system? No, because you're going to add another 15, 20 minutes to a game now. But a lot of people have been saying over the last couple of days, the ABS is going to change a lot of things for calls.
70% of fans at spring training said that they actually liked the system this past year.
So you're going to see a lot more calls be corrected in a good way. It's not always a bad thing when calls get corrected. It just means we need a little more help.
Nick, SEC Network host Alyssa Lang is expanding her role by officially joining ESPN as a college football sideline reporter, but also I believe adding NFL coverage too, or NBA coverage, I should say, for a national package, signifying a promotion to a more high-profile marquee assignment for the four-letter network. Your thoughts?
I really like Alyssa Lang. I think she does some really good work. I think she does work for Sirius also. She's really good. She does the SEC Network. I think she's also on the sidelines during like the primetime games for SEC Network. She's really good. I think she deserves a chance to be being part of the NBA team is like prime territory. Like getting into that room, being there with like the Sedanos and Lisa Salters and
Angel Gray.
Angel Gray and why do I keep forgetting her name? Who's hosting NBA Today? Malika Andrews. So that's prime territory. That's more eyeballs.
Absolutely, 1,000%. Nick, a very unfortunate stroke of luck for Jerry Schemmel, the longtime Rockies radio announcer, was laid off by iHeartMedia. From a second time in 6 years that he has lost his job amid the widespread layoffs at the company. Damn. Can this guy catch a break? He's got to call a terrible baseball team, and he lost his job for the second time in 6 years.
Well, wasn't it true? So he got laid off the first time. Then they brought him back.
And they laid him off again.
What was it? KOA was originally the...
Yeah, KOA radio for the Rockies, yeah.
And then they moved the game, I think, to another station. And then he got laid off at iHeart. So, I mean, you can't make this shit up, to be quite honest. Like, I always thought if you were calling the games, a lot of times those people were paid by the team. So why would it say iHeart is laying them off? I don't get that. Usually,
that is weird, yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, like the Yankees, I think, pay Michael Kay. Even though like it's on the S network and all that stuff. But, well, because they own the network. That's a little different too. So technically, even though it's the Yankees Entertainment and Sports Network, the Yankees still pay the salaries. Most networks maybe don't do that. But most teams own their network that they're on. So it is technically the team paying them. It's a crappy team. They don't make good decisions. I'll just leave it at that.
Final story, Nick, for the day. As if the WNBA cannot shoot itself in the foot anymore, the Portland Fire prematurely announced the head coaching hire for the franchise via our friends at LinkedIn, posting a welcome message for Alex Sarama before a contract was ever finalized, leading to an immediate retraction and embarrassment.
This was hilarious when you shared this with me. Goes to show you nothing can be done right in the WNBA, even if it's prematurely or not. Good job, Kathy Engelbert. You probably had something to do with this, right? How do you put this announcement out on LinkedIn before it's even signed? Come on. Come on.
Ugh.
Can't make this shit up.
Sadly, you can't with this league, which is just mind-boggling that we're going to be locked out here in 15 days.
I mean, thanks a lot, Kathy. It's all your fault.
Oh, man. With that in mind, Nick, how about some final thoughts for today's program? We went just over about 3 minutes over the 3-hour mark. Not bad, but final thoughts for today's show. Covered a lot of ground today.
Covered a lot of ground, a lot of WNBA drama. My hate for Angel Reese is much stronger now. We learned that Netflix thinks that podcasts are going to work on premium platforms. I don't think so. But we covered a lot today. The AI generated stuff is just ridiculous. What else? That there's going to be a WNBA lockout, but we already knew that. Oh, also the UC investments was interesting today. Let's see. Was there anything else that really stood out? Oh, the Carolina Panthers reporter.
Yeah.
So, good day, good show, good week. We'll be back on the 23rd. What is that? That's a week from today, right? Looks like we're going an hour later. I see.
Yes.
A little 2 to 5 action next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Make sure you join us. Make sure you follow the network, the ETB Network on social media at ETB Network, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Network. Make sure you follow our playback channel, playback.tv/ETB Network, which is also simulcasted to our YouTube channel right now. Hi, hello. Help us get to that 4,000 watch hours, which we are on the continuous prowl to reach. The quicker you help us get there, the quicker we can do some more fun things for everybody else who watches, maybe some giveaways in the near future.
We want merch.
That might be next. Maybe a towel that says "wee woo, wee woo, wee woo" on
Oh my God.
it. But yeah, make sure you check us out. Also, thanks to our partner Playback TV as well, who helps us stream all these shows and do our watching streams and all that stuff. As we said, we finished the WNBA finals. We're doing MLB playoffs. The NBA is back on NBC. That's when? That's Monday?
21st, next Tuesday.
Oh, next Tuesday. Okay. And then we'll be able to review that on Press Row this next coming week. Get
Love
to check out all the new stuff on NBC, Peacock. Is the Amazon game before we come back or no?
Believe it is, yes.
It's the day before we come back. Or it's the day after we... Is it the day before? We come back the day before it comes on.
Yes.
That's it. So make sure you check us out. Also, thanks to Novig for being our partner as well. All ETB Network odds are presented by Novig Sports Prediction Market. Make sure you check it out. We had our Novig plays. If I can quickly... speaking of Novig, it's amazing. Every time I say Novig, an odds drops in right as I say it. Can't make that one up. There's the early odds for both games. What do we have as favorites so far? What does it say there?
We got Dodgers and we got the Mariners.
Okay, quickly before we get out of here, I will.
And I think our Press Row parlay is for TNF tonight with the Steelers and Bengals from Paycor Stadium.
So, it's not listed yet. Okay. Oh, because it's on the coin side. I keep doing that.
Yeah, we got Pittsburgh on the spread and then DK Metcalf for receiving yards and touchdowns.
Yeah, here it is. DK Metcalf over 66.5 yards. Pittsburgh Steelers -5.5. And DK Metcalf anytime touchdown. 10 coins to win 54.
Better than nothing.
All right. We're going to get out of here. MMA Outsiders will come your way at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, about 20 minutes from now. Zam Vando and Jack Gold coming your way to get you ready for UFC Vancouver coming up.
Vancouver!
So make sure you tune into that next. But that'll do it for episode 20. He's Callum McClure. I'm Nick Morgeson. More streams coming up. But until then, have a good week. Have a good day. Have a good week. What a day. What a week. What a life. We will see you next time.
Have a good day, everybody.